CASA stands for Court-Appointed Special Advocates. When a child is removed from their home because of abuse or neglect they were experiencing from their parents, they are placed in the state's care, often referred to as in CPS care. To help these children be seen and heard while navigating the foster care system, the judge overseeing the case may come to their local CASA program and ask for a volunteer to appoint to the child. In Guadalupe County, CASA of Central Texas is that local program. I'm here to tell you tonight a little bit about what I learned during my time as a volunteer. From 2009 to 2013, I was the CASA volunteer for 5 siblings, ages 11, 11, 12, 13, and 14. The case lasted 4 years, so obviously I can't tell you everything that they went through. I can tell you that their dads were never in the picture and that their mom was severely neglectful. The first time I met them was to pick them up from their foster home, take them to the local jail to have a visit with their mom. She was so incapable of putting her children first that after 4 years, which is rare, usually they get a year, but she was given chance after chance to provide a safe environment for them to return home to. The case finally closed and all children were left to live out their childhood in CPS care, so they were never returned home. The middle child, Veronica, had the hardest time in care. I counted, and during the 4 years that I was her advocate, she had 6 placements, including a stay at the local juvenile detention center. She moved 6 times from the ages of 12 to 16. That's 6 schools in 4 years. No wonder these kids are facing challenges. In 2015, there were 1,272 kids in Texas who turned 18 and aged out of CPS care, including my girl Veronica. That year, statistically, only 50% of those children received their high school diploma. Moving forward, only 6% received their 2-year degree, 4% received their 4-year degree. And this last May, my girl Veronica joined the 1% of her 1,272 aged out classmates who have received their master's degree. Veronica is the perfect example of how we can change the path of a child's life. She could have easily turned out like her mother, spending time in and out of jail, taking from society instead of giving. Instead, there were adults who cared about her and gave her the tools to improve her life, and she utilized everyone. So I'm here to tell you there are nearly 100 children living in Guadalupe County last year that were in CPS care. Who's taking care of these children? I encourage you to think about how you can support them. I encourage you to think about supporting CASA of Central Texas. I'm not here tonight to ask for funding. I know not everyone can become a volunteer. What I am asking is for your support. Everyone in this room is very involved in the community, obviously. If you'll go on our Facebook, Twitter, whatever your preference is later, share that you heard this great presentation. And you did, you liked every one of our photos. I so appreciate that. That goes really far for us, so I'm just asking for support tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much for everything you do. Really appreciate it. Next, okay, Christine, you want to come on up and follow that?
Yeah, I wanted her to go first, just to kind of give the framework.
Okay.
I'm Christine Zunker. I'm in your district, Irma. Yeah, and how I became a CASA. I knew nothing about CASA, I knew nothing. But several years ago, I went to a meeting that was held for things that you could do to help children who were caught up with Child Protective Services. And I thought maybe I could be like help with food that gets delivered or supplies or something when a child is dropped off at 2 o'clock in the morning at a foster family. And I looked up, and I'm a retired realtor, and I saw this thing that said CASA, and I thought, And so the fellow realtor that was was helping coordinate the event said, you should look into that. I think you'd be good at it. And so I got some more information, and just a few weeks later, I was taking the very intense, as it needs to be, training. They have really great training here at the New Braunfels CASA office, and it needs to be, because we're almost paraprofessionals, because we are in court and we have a lot of influence over what happens, so we've got to be well trained. But they also give you real good support, your CASA supervisor, when you The first case I took, I was like a deer in headlights. I got all this training and everything, but I don't know what to do. And so they had really great support, and the supervisors are full-time people that have no more than 30 volunteers in them. And then my motivation to stay as a community volunteer with CASA is because we actually make a difference in a child's life, and we are there. The attorney who's appointed to represent the child represents what the child wants, and we're guardian ad litem. We represent what is in the best interest of the child. And the fact that the judges appreciate us being there, and as time went on, I learned they teach you in the training to not have biases and stuff, but that's hard to get past. But as I continued on, I realized that I have to look at the whole child and their community, the child, the parents, extended family, and then I found that by keeping my focus on the child, I could always do a great job. So if you know anybody that's thinking about something that will pay back 100-fold, look into working with CASA or supporting CASA. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. I actually do have somebody in mind. They contacted me this past week, and him and his wife, they make quilts, and they bring the quilts, like, you know what I mean? Like if they're, thank you so much. Okay, and I'll give you, and they're planning to work with CPD and our police department, and so maybe they can work with y'all too, to bring a quilt, whenever they go to, like, let's say a child is being taken from their home,
We have in the CASA offices in the Broncos, we've got toys and some people crochet blankets.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's, because I'm new to quilting.
Mhm.
That's my next project is I'm going to make a quilt.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll be in touch. Thank you.
And I saw a flyer for y'all that said that you have trainings on August 30th and October 4th in New Braunfels. Is that correct?
Yes, that's the local, that's where the training happens, just because we can only have so many physical offices. But the children that we serve, if the child is removed in Guadalupe County, it is our volunteer base that will be come to.
Perfect.
And Harris County and Pomona.
And so for anyone interested, that's on their Facebook page. And it's August 30th to October 4th. I misread that. It's every Wednesday from 5 to 8:30 in New Braunfels, or September 2nd to October 7th. Those are Saturdays from 9:30 to 1.
It's the rare Saturday training, so get it in.
The citizens get here, you unless you go to the main.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both for everything you do for CASA and for the children in Guadalupe County. Next up is Rianne Skies Wensky. Did I say that right? I totally screwed that up. I'm sorry. It's Ryan, right? Sorry about that. Ryan. Hi, Ryan.
The day that Mayor Allen gets my name, we're all going to win. My name's Ryan Sykes-Winsky, and I'm the director of Big Brothers Big Sisters, Comal and Guadalupe counties. And I see that I didn't get a whole bunch of people tonight. Nothing exciting happening. I just wanted to I wanted to come and tell you guys about our event happening next week. We are having a volunteer recruitment event at Santico Cibolo. Free bowling, free arcade cards for 30 minutes, free food. And no, you do not have to be a volunteer. You don't have to sign up. I don't get your social security number just so you can bowl for free. But if you know of anybody that is interested in volunteering or learning more, or if you have families that you think would benefit from our program, then come out and have some fun. I will tell you that since the last time I came in, I guess it was April, May, a few months ago, we have had a significant increase in volunteer inquiries out here and families signed up. I actually just emailed Deanna at SCUC ISD and said that we've had so much interest in volunteers out here that I think it's safe to actually start sharing with families through the school district. And we're going to be having the same luncheon that Katie tried to invite the entire city to back in May. We're going to have another one of those. We're going to have another one of those actually at the Dulford Learning Center on November 1st. So stay tuned for that. We've got a bunch of great table hosts that will be stepping up for that. And so just kind of keep an ear out that if you want to learn more about that, come to our luncheon. We'll come back and make sure that you guys get that information. But for the time being, come out, and I'm going to leave. I've got about 20 flyers printed that I'll leave
Please,
here for you
if you
guys.
could pass those out to us. Yeah, thank you.
And then I'll stick around, so if any of y'all want more specific information, you can just grab my card.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you so much. All right, so we got two email letters for Peggy to read. Please, Deborah LaGrosse.
Council, on this item, I would just caution about any comments. There is pending litigation related to it. If you have questions or concerns, please direct them to the City Attorney, Frank Garza. Thank you.
Okay, the first one is from Deborah LaGrosse. Mayor and City Council, my name is Deborah LaGrosse. I live at 4190 Lower Seguin Road. I am informing you of recent information in regards to the current lawsuit. On 24 July 2023, my attorney, Mr. Brian Marks, filed a notice of tort claim sent to the City of Cibolo's attorney and addressed to the City Council, Mayor, and Mr. Wayne Reed. I have asked Ms. Simmons to pass out the letter of notice to tort claim and the plaintiff's First Amendment petition. I passed that out to Council earlier. I have also asked Ms. Simmons to pass out email correspondence from my attorney, Mr. Brian Marks, to Mr. Justin Nail and Mr. Frank Garza, the City of Cibolo's attorney, and email correspondence from Mr. Marks to Mr. Dean, the court coordinator of Guadalupe County. The City of Cibolo is claiming immunity, and a court date for a hearing was set for 25 July 2023. The City Attorney, Mr. Justin Nail, did not file a brief with Mr. Brian Marks until the afternoon of 24 July, and Mr. Marks was amending the original suit. Mr. Marks asked Mr. Nail and Mr. Garza to postpone the hearing as Mr. Marks had experience with the court and knew that filing briefs a day before the court date would not be enough notice for either side to respond. Mr. Marks even contacted the court coordinator for a date that would work for both parties, but the city attorney did not agree, and both sides had to appear on court on 25 July 2023. The judge did not agree that briefs filed a day before were not satisfactory, and a new court date was set for 8 August and was established. Mr. Marks tried to work with the city attorney to appear on not to appear on 25 July, as this was just a billable account for both attorneys and not good for the use of taxpayers' dollars. Today, 8 August 2023, the court heard both attorneys, and due to a family emergency, the judge was not able to read all the briefs and will rule on the case soon. As always, I've done nothing but to seek justice from the injustice that were done. There are other avenues, including higher courts, that I can seek as well. I won't be going away anytime soon. Against my wishes, this is going to be a continued cost to the citizens of Cibolo, the taxpayers. The city attorneys have not once come to the table to negotiate or discuss options. The first council meeting I attended in 2022, I heard how bad the roads are and wonder how much the taxpayers had to cover the cost of numerous lawsuits the city has encountered. I have asked the city to follow federal, state, and local codes and the UDC. I hope you will be amiable outcome that will help all outcome, and I thank all of you for the time this evening.
Thank you, Peggy. All right, next up
I have
is...
one more, sir.
Oh, sorry. I meant, I was just going to say the name Jeff McLaughlin.
Yes. From Jeff McLaughlin, Mr. Mayor and Council. I, as well as many others in Cibolo, are growing more concerned about the conduct of our council members. Some continue to push a false narrative, and public refuse to accept the legal opinion of a licensed attorney. If the council is going to continue to ignore the expert opinions of staff especially those licensed to offer those opinions? Why do we employ those staff members? I'm not advocating to remove these members. Rather, I'm advocating council to discontinue the practice of offering their own misguided legal opinions for which they have no experience to offer them, and their claims are unfounded. These last couple of months, the behavior I have seen conducted by a few members remind me of the Netflix series, How to Become a Tyrant, specifically the episode Crush Your Rivals and Control the Truth. I once again implore all of you to start representing the citizens of Cibolo at large and not just your circle of friends. When we question the decisions you make from the dais, it's not a personal attack. It is rather a challenge to the decisions you made, something all of you should expect from the citizens you represent. It is not an easy job, but it is a job each and every one of you signed up for, so it's time to start acting the part. Jeff McLaughlin.
Thank you, Peggy. All right, so we'll go ahead and do 9, the consent agenda, and then I'm going to jump back to the public hearings. But for the 9, do I have do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve 9 as written.
I'll second that, 9A and B.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, okay, carries 7-0, Peggy. All right, and we're going to bounce back to agenda item 7A. The City of Cibolo City Council will hold a public hearing to hear public testimony regarding an amendment to Article 20 of the Cibolo Unified Development Code, aka EDC, amending the requirement to platting for 5+ acre properties within an agricultural homestead, ag district.
Hello.
Kelsey, how you doing?
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. Good to see you again. Just giving a little bit of background, this is a public hearing that's related to an ordinance that you'll be able to take action on a little bit later on during the meeting. Just for some background, at the June 13th City Council meeting, you did direct us to work with the City Attorney's Office to initiate a UDC amendment, which is why we're bringing this to you today. Kind of the background on why that was brought forward is that the city has received multiple inquiries dealing with subdivision of land by gift to a family member for the purposes of a single-family residential development or a single-family home to be constructed. Currently, our Unified Development Code does mandate that any division of land that requires a building permit, which is required right now for any sort of placement of a home or construction of a home, triggers the requirement of a development plat. So we did work with our city attorney's office on providing the attached amendment that would allow the development of single-family homes on lots that are zoned for ag and located within the city limits to be constructed or placed without the necessity of obtaining development plats prior to a building permit being issued. Specifically, this accommodates scenarios where land is being gifted in parcels of 5 acres or more. The purpose of developing that property is only for a single-family residential use in that homestead agricultural district. The parent tract that it's going to be divided from is greater than 10 acres, so that way at least both tracts are remaining that 5+ acres. And as long as there's no requirement for dedication of any public road or utility prior to issuing of that building permit. Notice of this public hearing was posted in the Seguin Gazette on June 25th. The first public hearing was held by the Planning and Zoning Commission at their July 12th meeting.
Thank you very much, Kelsey.
Yes.
Go ahead,
It
Mr. Hicks.
is for family or extended family, not just anybody. That's, I think
After
that was the whole purpose of that, and that's what state statutes state. So
That's what started this. We did
Right.
confer with our city attorney's office. They said trying to define what's considered a family member or things like that would be a little difficult. The provision that they've added in it to try to accommodate that is that the development can't be part of any sort of phased development project. So you can't have someone, saying I'm giving it to a family member, but I'm developing 400 lots. Something like that.
Gotcha.
Right.
Thank you.
Yes.
Big family.
Yeah.
Big family.
All right. Anybody here to speak? I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing. It is 7:21 p.m. on Tuesday, August 8th. The public hearing is now open. If anybody in the audience wishes to come up and speak on this public hearing, please come forward. And when you get to the microphone, sir, please state your name.
Yeah, my name is Glenn Mueller. I live at 510 Opie Lane.
You can adjust that if you want for your height. There you go, sir.
I was going to be brief. All I want to really do is thank y'all for listening to us.
Yes, sir.
In the beginning of this thing in January, February, I didn't feel that way, but it's gotten better. And now y'all are going to vote on it tonight, and hopefully y'all will do the right thing, and my kids can build their house.
Thank you, sir.
That's
You
it.
know, and as a, I don't know if we're going to be able to vote on it, because normally we have to do the public hearing on one night and then the vote the next night, so.
In this case, Mayor, we made an exception, and it's
Oh.
on the agenda
Okay.
for action.
For action.
Well, there you go. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, my name's Chris Harper. I'm at 510 Opie Lane as well. My father-in-law just spoke, so the intent is my wife, which is his daughter, for us to build our home for our family, generational land. We've kind of discussed this before, but want to appreciate P&Z, Kelsey, and Suzanne, and her team for putting this together. It's really important to us, and thank you for your time.
Thanks, Chris. Anyone else? Okay, the time is now 7:23 p.m. I'm going to close the public hearing and move on to 7B. The City of Cibolo City Council will hold a public hearing to hear public testimony regarding redistricting changes from 7 single-member districts to 4 single-member districts with 3 at-large based on the 2020 census. Mr. Reed.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I have no presentation for you. This is the same material that you've received at the past public hearings. If you have a question for me, I'm happy to answer that, but for sake of time, I'll turn this over to you, Mayor, for public comment.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Reed. All right, the time is now 7:24. If anyone in the audience would like to come up to the microphone and give us your opinions on the redistricting that's occurring right now in the city of Cibolo, you're more than welcome to come up and share your thoughts with us. Mr. Weber, welcome.
Mayor, council, staff. I'd just like to say I'm not in favor of the redistricting. I'd like to see maybe the lines redrawn after the latest census that was taken in 2020. I'd like to see maybe the lines redrawn. As you know, Councilwoman Cunningham, you know, districts 4 and 7 cut right through my neighborhood. I noticed when I was on council and I ran for council, I missed out on a few votes because I noticed that the lines ran straight through lawns.
Yes.
So there's some, yeah, it's crazy. So if we could redistrict them, the last time the city redrew the lines for the districts, my neighborhood wasn't even complete, Cibolo Valley Ranch, right across from Steele High School. So when those new houses were built in, a couple years after I moved in, the lines would go straight diagonally across yards, straight through the neighborhood. So I'd like to see a little more definitive lines of where districts lie. That way we can have a little more equal representation. Not that I'm not getting equal representation from my neighborhood, but I'd like to see my whole neighborhood be in one district instead of split between 2. It's only been, what, 12, 14 years maybe that we've been doing districting.
It's 2012.
2012, so yeah, 11 years. 11 years we've been doing this. Let's give it a shot. Let's see how it goes. If we can redraw the lines, see where the populations lie. I'd like to see it that way instead of going the 4 and then 3 at large. Just my opinion for what it's worth. Thank you.
Thank you very
Weber,
much.
We did, when we talked to our demographic, we did tell them that don't cut subdivisions, so just so you know that.
Sure, yeah, no, and yeah, I mean, I see some in like District 1, I think it includes a little small area, and I mean, you got apartments that are going to be built right there in the Horsehead area behind Santikos, so that's gonna put in what, 1,000 apartments, potentially 1,000 new voters right there in that district. So District 1 was once a small district, now it's going to be much bigger once that apartment complex goes in. So, all right.
Thanks, Mr. Weber.
Appreciate it.
Does anyone else in the audience tonight want to come up and talk to us about the redistricting plan? share your thoughts with us, good or bad. We're here to hear your feedback. All right, well, hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. It is now, did you have a comment, Katie?
Okay. I just wanted to clarify something. So the redistricting is just for the drawing of the 4 districts. The 4 districts versus 7 districts went on the ballot in 2021. It was a charter amendment, so it will be 4 districts. We do have a couple of maps out there. There is a survey also on the city's Facebook page and on the website that you can take to pick which one you like. But as you mentioned, also our districts are very out of whack. We have some districts that are at 1,000, and then District 4 has over 8,000. So the lines do have to be redrawn. That's part of the redistricting, but the 7 districts to 4 districts was a vote as part of a charter amendment in 2021.
And Ms. Cunningham, if I could add, there is a second town hall on the redistricting scheduled for August 15th. That's next week, and that will start at 6 p.m. And then on August 22nd here, and then on August 22nd, the City Council will consider adopting a redistricting plan based upon the 2 maps.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reed. Did you have a comment, Joe? No, okay. All right, so the time is now 7:28. I'm going to close the public hearing for 7B. All right, moving on to item 10, staff update. Mr. Reed.
Mayor and Council, my update would be similar to the previous update, so I'll be brief, and then you'll receive an email with more details. So 1 second here.
We got huge agenda items.
I do want you to know that the Chief of Police interviews continue to move forward. Next week, we will have our 2 finalists here to be interviewed, and then I will inform council of a preferred candidate, and we'll arrange a time for all of you to meet and greet this candidate before there's a public announcement. Happy to report that on the RFQs and RFPs. I'll just speak to the architectural services, is that we're moving forward with the architectural services for the public safety facility. You'll get more information on that soon. And then on our CIP update, public comments already talked about Cibolo Valley Drive. There's some cleanup to do, but that project has been finished ahead of schedule and on budget. And so on August 22nd, I'll bring D&D contractors here for a presentation just to highlight the project overall. And I'll just stop there. And then I plan on providing a presentation on a resident survey, citizen survey. That may be at the next meeting, or it may be at the meeting after that, but that's something that council's asked for in the budget, and I wanted you to have more information about that.
I've got a quick question.
Go ahead.
It's not complete because I've seen multiple areas of curbs that they still need to pour.
Correct. There's cleanup
and
to
they
do.
still have to paint some stripes.
That's correct. The
Okay.
reason why we don't
Let's
put,
just make sure that it's not complete.
That going to be on the 24th?
The
Is that right?
asphalting
For the
is.
stripes?
I believe so. So the reason you don't put
Gotta
striping
wait
down
2
right
weeks.
away is that asphalt has to cure, if you will, or else that material will just start peeling off. So all I meant is, you know, it is substantially complete
Yes.
and ahead of schedule. Thank you, Mr. Hicks. And so for sake
Well, I
of
didn't
time,
want people to think that it's complete and that's what
Yes,
they
sir.
got, because they're gonna be like, well, what about the striping?
Is that what we paid for?
Bentwood Ranch, there's part of a curb that's still,
yes, sir, there is.
Okay.
We're fixing a valve that happened to be in that curb.
yes, sir.
But
Thank you.
very, very proud of our relationship with the contractor who did an outstanding job on this project. And as you all know, this is their backyard. They are a Cibolo business. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Reed. Moving on to 11 ordinances. 11A, approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the City of Cibolo repealing the curfew for minors under Chapter 50, offenses and miscellaneous provisions, Article 4, juvenile curfew, Section 50 through 41, through 50 through 45 in accordance with HB 1819. That takes effect September 1st, 2023, and setting an effective date. Interim Chief of Police Wells.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So just some background on this ordinance. The ordinance being presented tonight in response to recent legislative changes. House Bill 1819 was adopted by the 88th session of the legislature and signed by Governor Abbott on June 9th, 2023. And basically, it eliminates the authority of a city to adopt and enforce a juvenile curfew. So we do have a current curfew on the books. It's been on there for many years. So the ordinance in front of you is authorization to, with your approval, to repeal that ordinance and remove that from the books. So again, repeals the current juvenile ordinance. The staff recommends approval and setting an effective date of August 31st, 2023. There is a typo in your council communication that says September 1st, but the actual ordinance itself dictates August 31st effective.
It would have to end the day before it goes in.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve 11A as written.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call starting with Councilman Benson.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you, Chief Wells.
Thank you.
Moving on to 11B, approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the City of Cibolo providing for the disannexation of approximately 2.227 and 2.285 acres, collectively 4.51 acres of land located at 12090 and 12420 Interstate 10 West from the city limits. Miss Lee.
Yes, sir. So this is an action item following up on the public hearing that you held at the last city council meeting regarding these same properties. So the petitioners are requesting disannexation for the two properties that you read out to be removed from the city of Cibolo city limits. These properties had previously been annexed into the city of Cibolo back in 2010, and then zoning had been assigned in 2013. The City of Cibolo, as far as services that are provided to that property and within the area, the City of Cibolo does not facilitate solid waste pickup for those properties. However, it does provide professional law enforcement services, professional firefighting services, code enforcement services, and street maintenance and improvements within that to that property and within that area. As far as the process, Section 1.04 of the City's Unified Development Code does provide for disannexations, and I'll read that section. Whenever, in the opinion of the City Council, there exists within the corporate limits of the city a territory not suitable or necessary for city purposes, the City Council may, after a public hearing on the issue, which was held at the last meeting, disannex said territory as part of the city by ordinance. And so the ordinance is up for consideration by the council tonight. I would like to make just one note that our city attorney's office this afternoon did ask to provide some additional wording into the ordinance. And if you have the packet, I'm going to read it as well, just so that way it's on record. But in the bottom whereas on page 1, Mr. Garza did want to reemphasize that there would no back property taxes be paid as part of this ordinance because there were services being provided and could have been provided to this property. And so that change, just to read into the record, is whereas the City Council finds and the owners agree as evidenced by statements in petition that the city did not fail or refuse to provide services within the area with a period required by statute or specified in a service plan prepared for the territory, this is the addition. And the property taxes collected by the city was roughly proportional to the amount of money the city spent for the benefit of the owners, and therefore the city shall not be required to refund any taxes or fees to the owners, and the disannexation does not fall under the purview of Texas Local Government Code, and it states those sections. So that is the one change that Mr. Garza had recommended this afternoon.
Thank you, Kelsey. Do I hear a motion?
Well, I'd like a minute to discuss something
Okay.
on this. Did we, I know that I've received a email from Mr. Reed, but did we ask them about in their de-annexing? I have no problem de-annexing them if that's what they want to do. However, it would have been nice to have some type of agreement put in place that they do decide to sell and they do decide to develop, that they come back into the city to where we don't have patchwork. And I know that the state legislation has really messed with the cities on this, but I would have liked to have had something in agreement with them to where they understand that process.
And
Yes, I know you had some
Ms. Lee, if
discussions
I
about
could,
that.
so Mr. Hicks, I followed up with the city attorney and provided you that information, and I think that's a matter for you to discuss with the council. If the council would like to seek that as an agreement with the de-annexation, if that's the direction of council, then we would approach the applicant.
You know, I actually spoke with them last time, and I asked him about, he said he makes hay, and so that could be a reason to get ag. So that could be another solution for him if he wanted to stay in the city and then apply for the ag exemption through the county appraisal district. So that's what I would suggest. But
Well, that's why I wanted to bring it before we just went and made a motion to de-annex him, because I'm all for the de-annexation. If he wants to de-annex, that's fine. But upon him deciding to sell, or his son, I believe it's his son, owns one of those properties, because that way we don't have that patchwork down there. Because right now it's just a patchwork. You go and you look at our city map, it looks like a quilt. I know that was brought up earlier. Yeah, it looks like a quilt in the southern part of Cibolo, and it just. We've already seen how it has affected us in our ETJ, and we've got litigation on that. So I just would ask that maybe we table this tonight and ask staff to go and maybe discuss it with them and see what they say.
yeah, because I mean, with how hard it is to annex nowadays, I mean, it
Exactly.
seems like, you know, it'd be best to keep it.
And I mean,
have a-
because
give
if
the ag
he's annexed right now, I have no problem. But if you know, give him that opportunity, we'll de-annex you. And I'm not trying to force his hand, because if he never sells, then it never gets annexed back in. But if he does decide to sell, if some developer decides to come in and say, hey, we'll give you this much, you say, oh yeah, I'll take that. That way we have that ability to have them annexed into the city.
So motion, you're going to make a motion to table?
So I'll make a motion to table with giving direction to city staff to go and engage what I've spoken of here tonight.
I got a second?
And then bring it back possibly at the next meeting, if not no later than the first meeting in September. I think a month is more than enough time to discuss it.
That should be good. I know our packet items are due by this Friday for the next city council meeting.
Oh,
so
yeah,
that might be a little quick turnaround, but.
No, that's fine, for the
September.
first meeting in
Okay.
September, if that'll work.
Okay.
Do I hear a
Thank you.
second?
Second.
Okay, we'll do a roll call starting with Councilman Hicks.
Are we done, excuse me, are we done with discussion on this?
Well, if you want to discuss.
Oh.
No, go ahead. Yeah, by all means.
I think we're kind of holding these people hostage long enough, personally. And it's interesting, these things you bring up, I don't know some of the history of that, but I think the city needs to roll on this and let them disannex. That's how I feel about it.
Okay.
Except for this ag exemption that you mentioned, I think that's a definite possibility.
Right. Let's work with them, Kelsey, and see if they can do that.
This is the territory that San Antonio, not too many years ago, tried to annex.
Yep.
Well, they had it annexed, and what they did
Yes,
was.
I know, I was there.
They de-annexed it, and then we grabbed it, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Mr. Hetzel, what's your vote? To motion, I mean, to,
Nay.
as far as, well, no, the vote right now is to postpone.
Yeah.
Okay, so, no, okay. Norma?
Oh, nay.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Aye.
Can you do that again, so?
Okay, so we got an aye, a nay, a nay, an aye, a nay, a nay, and an aye. How many ayes is that?
Mine fell.
1, 2.
1, 4, 7 are ayes.
Okay, so it is not being tabled. Do I hear a motion to either approve or disapprove?
Yeah, I will move to approve this disannexation request.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. This time we'll start with,
Can we still add the stipulation that even with, if this is approved or not, that we still reach out
Nope,
to them
because you,
and see if they will add the annexation upon sale or whatever Mr. Hicks was talking about?
right.
You can go talk to them, but you don't need much leverage at this point.
yeah, once you de-annex them, you don't got no leverage.
Yeah.
And right
That's
now, they
correct.
are in the city limits of Cibolo.
Right.
But these are just 2 out of their 7 properties. I mean, it just so happened that these properties fell through the cracks for being de-annexed.
Correct.
And I understand that.
And so, kind of to Mr. Mahoney's point, kind of holding this lot hostage, they own the rest of it. I mean, they're de-annexed. Why would we want to just hold on to this one?
Okay. If you start from the city limits of San Antonio and come up 10, it is totally commercial, industrial, whatever you want to call it, up until it gets to Cibolo Creek, and then somehow or another it all drops out. You go on all the way up to Seguin, guess what? Coming out of Seguin, it's also commercial. We're being held hostage on commercial and industrial by not having control of that area.
So if it's de-annexed, then the city has no control at all over what gets built. We have no zoning, we have no regulations, we can't even hold them really to our development code.
They have to, it's literally
Wild, Wild West.
Wild Wild West, and they've got to abide by the counties at that time.
We know how that's going. Can we table it?
Look, I'm all for people being able to get out of the city if they don't want to be out of the
Me
city.
too.
I just think that there's smarter ways to do that than just to say, okay, go. If you add these two properties up with the ones that we've messed up, and we've messed this, it appears to me, based on what's been discussed, we've messed this up. We have held them hostage for years. The difference is that he laid out that map. That's all. We're talking about 4.5 acres, but I think it's much larger, the piece that he owns along
Yes.
there. And when you give up any kind of control of that, now you've put together something that you may not want right there on that frontage road. And I'm not saying that's what he's up to at all. I think he just wants to not be in the city. But
Or pay city tax.
20 years from now, that may be a huge difference as to what happens. Over the next 5 or 10 years, probably nothing's going to change. It's just he's going to make hay and.
Yeah. Get the ag exemption, then it's all a moot
But I
point.
think we've got to look a little bit further ahead, and whether or not we did this right 20 years ago or 15 years ago when it was annexed or whatever is another month is not going to change this, because I think there's plenty of votes to de-annex this property. I think what I would have liked to have seen is just some sort of discussion about what it looks like when he's gone and when his son is gone, because eventually we'll all be gone. And 30 years from now, somebody's going to be like, what in the heck were they thinking when they allowed that to happen? And we have plenty of examples of that around the city now.
Oh, absolutely. To this day.
Like most of our frontage on I-35 belonging to the city of Schertz, right? I mean, so I'm a little hesitant not to at least go have a conversation before we de-annex him. I'll vote, I'm just gonna tell you right now, on the 12th, I'm voting to let him go.
Right.
But I would like to at least have a conversation with him to say, hey, man, when you leave, give us a shot to have some control of what happens on that I-10 frontage.
That's how I was looking at it.
So, where did we leave off?
You've got a motion, you've got a second.
Okay. And the motion is to allow the de-annexation, right?
To the fact that we were just discussing this a little bit further, could I make a motion to bring back the agreement to?
We have to vote on this motion.
Have to
Okay.
vote on this
Okay.
before we go.
All right.
Unless you made the motion.
I did
No,
not.
Mr. Mahoney made the motion, it was seconded by Mr. Roberts.
All right. So we can, if we want to, we can let this motion fail, and then then you can make your new motion, Norma. So, we'll start with Councilman Benson.
The motion was to approve, correct?
Yeah, it was to de-annex.
Nay.
Okay.
I'm going to change and go nay.
Okay.
Nay.
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 Okay. So
Now
the
you
nays
make
have
the
it?
motion. Now you
All right.
make the motion.
And now,
Make the motion so that the
I'll make a
wording is
motion
made appropriate.
that we table this
so we can have further
Agreement.
discussion about the future of the property, should they decide to sell, or a death in the family, or whatever.
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
And again, bringing it back in September, correct?
Absolutely. I want to
No
go
later
back-
than 12 September.
Yes, preferably the next council meeting.
But we can't because it's due by Friday, the packet, but September.
Okay.
Okay, so Councilman Hicks.
Aye.
Aye.
For the 12th?
Aye.
For the 12th, we're okay.
Okay, for the 12th.
Randy?
Randy?
September 12th.
Aye. What?
Oh, no, your vote.
Aye.
Okay, ayes have it, 7-0. We're going to table it. All right. Thank you very much, Kelsey.
Out there going, wow, that's
Okie dokie. Next up, to 11C, approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the City of Cibolo amending the Unified Development Code, UDC, Article 20, Subdivision Regulations, Section 20.3.17, Development Plats to provide an exemption, for certain residential development on certain agricultural lots. Ms. Lee?
I don't have anything else to add after what I shared at the public hearing, unless there are any questions from the council.
I'll make a motion to approve 11C, ordinance of the City of Cibolo amending the Unified Development Code, Article 20, Subdivision Regulations, Section 20.3.17, Development Plats to provide an exemption of certain residential development on certain agricultural lots.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. We're going to start this one with Councilman Hicks.
Aye.
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 Ayes have it, 7-0. All right, next up is 11D, approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the City of Cibolo regarding a variance for Sec 18.2.h.5 of the UDC to reduce the required 60 feet right-of-way lot frontage to 51 feet for certain real property located at 1809 Green Valley Road. Ms. Huerta.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yes, this property is for the proposed plat of Barcelo Estates. The owner is Elaine de Munbrun. They're being represented by Heather Steeden with Sherwood Surveying. It's located at 1809 Green Valley Road. It's currently zoned SF2. The proposed use is for single-family residential. You held a public hearing for this at your last meeting. They are requesting to have a variance from 51 feet to 51 feet from the required 60 of right-of-way access. In your packet, show the options that you have to consider to vote either in favor or to deny. The analysis, or what should be considered for variances, is in the Unified Development Code, Section 4.3.5.3. And the applicant is here if you have any questions. And staff is also here if you have any further
I'll make a motion to approve because this property, there's no way unless they go and take part of Schert's property or take their neighbor's property to get to the 60 feet. So I'll make a motion to approve of an ordinance of the City of Cibolo regarding a variance for Section 18.2.h.5 of the UDC to reduce the required 60-foot right-of-way lot frontage to 51 feet for certain real property located at 1809 Green Valley Road.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. Katie, did you have some questions?
I did. So you're saying that this is Barcelo Estates. Have we already gotten plats and stuff for that development?
It's actually later in the agenda.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So just to clarify, this is the one entrance and exit for this proposed neighborhood?
Correct. It's going to be a two-lot subdivision.
Oh, two-lot. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not a.
I'm like,
sub-
that doesn't work.
Yes.
It would be a different story, Katie, if it was 50 homes in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's Green Valley Road. It's next to those homes.
I wouldn't know.
Schert's city limit. Yeah, it's a good neighborhood. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so okay, I got a motion and a second. We'll start this one with Councilman Benson.
Aye.
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 Ayes have it, 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Huerta. All right, next up is 11E, Approval, disapproval of an ordinance of the city of Cibolo regarding a variance for 504 File Road to eliminate the requirement for sidewalks per section 18.17.a of the UDC. Ms. Huerta.
Yes, Mayor. We just received a request from the applicant for this item to be tabled in order to give her the opportunity to consider some different alternatives with staff. The applicant is here if you would like to.
Do you want to come talk to us at all?
Yeah.
Okay. What's going on?
As you know, I met with most of y'all and just trying to work with y'all and figuring out something that works for me and my property as well as works for the city. And before trying to just go vote on something, I want to hear from y'all on the people that I have met with on some suggestions or ideas. I have my suggestions. I'd be willing to share them with you. I would like to go back and meet with the city manager and planning and zoning to offer up some type of agreement that if and when sidewalks are put in, that I would pay $8 a square foot at that time. I really do not want to give the city a whole bunch of money to put in a bank account to never see the light of day of sidewalks for my property. I'd rather have some type of agreement written, and I would like to put a time limit on that, because I think that would be fair as well. You know, I don't want to be gone and past this earth and I never get to see sidewalks that we're so adamant about having. It's a lot of money, I'm going to tell you that, for the two sides of that property to get sidewalks put in at $8 a square foot. It would be over $15,000. I don't make money on that property. My tenants pay the mortgage and pay my taxes and insurance, and so $15,000 has to come out of my own pocket, and that's just a lot of money to be sitting in a bank account that earns me no interest whatsoever. So I'm open to hearing your ideas or suggestions.
Mayor.
Okay, but we are to table it, right? Okay,
Yes.
but go ahead, Joel.
Great conversation. Enjoyed visiting with you on Sunday. I firmly agree that I liked your idea. You know, I spoke that, you know, this very building that we're in, I'm sure that Mr. Jackson didn't want to have to put in sidewalks, but he did. And as I spoke to you, the downtown revitalization was about connectivity, being able to connect and being able to get and walk. And I'm all for that suggestion that you just made, but I'd also like to make a suggestion that we go back to our UDC and discuss with them about the facade grant, or the grant that they give the downtown businesses to include, I know I've got my representative right there next to you, to include sidewalks as part of that grant. The EDC, I mean, you think about the EDC wants people to prosper and grow, and the only best way to do that is to have the sidewalks to be able to have people connect. So I'd like to see that in the future EDC to discuss adding sidewalks, being able to put sidewalks into that grant. So I'm all for it, Cassie. I think we had a great conversation. We were there about an hour or so talking about the different stuff. So I'm definitely with this. I was going to make a motion to table it. Okay. So where we could do exactly what you're talking about, have a sit down, have our staff go through and figure out a better way to do this. But I think you should be able to get your business open without having to, you know, the more you wait, the more you can't make, and you know, and us continue to grow like what we all, like I told you, I'm not against the downtown businesses. I love it. I want to see everyone prosper here. So that's my two cents on that. Thank you.
If I could just
go ahead, Councilman Benson.
Yeah, so I think I appreciate that comment, Mr. Hicks. Also, this escrow idea is interesting, but I got some data. Thank you, Mr. Reed, for getting that data to me today. We've got some accounts for escrow for sidewalks in a development that is 17 years old. And I think that as we discuss this for the UDC, we've got to come up with something, because, you know, it sounds nice we're going to put this money in and someday we'll build sidewalks. But to your point, you could be, you know, I won't get graphic. You may not be here when those sidewalks, if they ever get built. And I think it's just, we've got to come up with a better way via the UDC and via EDC, and just what do we want it to look like down here. This overlay is a constant sand under my contact, but we're going to have to dig in and find some more things to do here, because it's just, this doesn't make sense. And then when you look at our brand new building that we put in at the city, anybody see those new sidewalks that were put in?
Oh, yeah.
You can't, because they don't exist, right? So, I mean, we're not even doing our own stuff, right? So I think we need to make a concerted effort, but I don't want this to hold up your progress. So I think we need to figure out a way to say, okay, we can get this open without sidewalks, and let's figure out a way to work with her to get that done, and then we can address this much larger issue than just sidewalks on File and South Street.
Thank you, Councilman Benson. Anyone else have any discussion, or do we get ready to vote?
Just one more
Okay, go
note
ahead,
there.
Councilman Hetzel.
One of the things that I noted in that area, because I've traipsed up and down there a long time, the only thing that's really got any sidewalks, I guess, is in our new administrative building over there, and fire station area and that sort of thing. But beyond that, that entire neighborhood, nothing. Absolutely no sidewalks. And there's not enough rooms because those streets are very small streets. So adding sidewalk, I'm not sure whether it's going to be effective or not. So, thank you.
That's what I comment. Just to you next?
Mr. Mahoney, you go first, and then
I just, maybe to echo what Mr. Hetzel said, don't know if they're going to be effective. I was over there 2 or 3 times. What was your word? Traipsing around?
That's me.
I did some traipsing around. I took some pictures. I tried to imagine what will this look like in 5 years or 10 years. And I really don't see the need for sidewalks right now. And so if this was in some way delayed, if a variance included a 10-year time span, to me that would be logical, because I never, ever see anybody walking up and down that street. How far away are we till we have sidewalks being used? 5 years, 10 years? I hate to put the burden on a single owner over something like that when it's very vague to me that it's useful.
Well, Mr. Mahoney, to that, I know that people walk around there. They're constantly walking, especially when we block off Main Street for our Saturdays, and you try to drive down File Road, you've got people walking. And so there is a need for sidewalks, and we discussed that. But not just that, I think that we need to also approach these businesses. I mean, because Mr. Jackson put them in. You look at Larry out there that has the go-kart track. He put money into to the escrow account. How many people are going to go walk out there on Bolton Road? Please, I'll take y'all out there. And I know that Mr. Benson's been out there. Me and you've been out there, Mr. Allen. There's no way, you know, he's got money into an escrow account that he may never see a sidewalk out there. But there's a need for the sidewalks. You know, it's a safety aspect of it. That's how I look at it. But we need to go back, and we need to, these other businesses, like there's a daycare over there. You've got the CrossFit. Why didn't we make them put their sidewalks in? We need to make sure that we're going back and letting them know that, I guess there's a new sheriff in town. I don't know how else to look at it, but go and let them know that we've got new management, and maybe we didn't follow our UDC prior to this, but we're looking at it and maybe bring up an agreement like Ms. Kearns is asking for with them, and saying, look, whenever we do go to develop it, we would like for you to contribute to this, because it benefits their business just as much as it benefits the city.
Mayor, I just want to state for the record that right now sidewalks would be an eligible expense for a big grant. It's just a matter of, you know, getting in a given year within the funds allotted, because it's first one's awarded, when the money's used up, then there's no money left over.
I was told that it wasn't.
Yeah, I received an email from the EDCs, I asked specifically, and they said sidewalks were not included.
But let's change it so we can. You know what I mean?
I know they just had changes, so.
Okay.
So they're in the new guidelines. Appreciate the clarification there.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. So we have a motion to table. I know we got plenty of other agenda items to hit
Yes.
tonight, so we got a lot of discussion for something we're tabling.
I just wanted to have that discussion.
Okay.
While it's here. So.
All right. Do I hear a second on the table? Second. All right. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, hearing none, we'll table the item.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Cassie. All right, next up is 12A, disapproval of a resolution designating certain officials as being responsible for acting for or on behalf of the city in dealing with the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department for the purpose of participating in the local park grant program, certifying that the city is eligible to receive program assistance, certifying that the city matching share is readily available, and dedicating the proposed site for permanent public park and recreational uses. Ms. Miranda.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Is it on? Hello?
Speak right
It's on, it's just not loud.
Hello?
I can hear you.
Speak directly into it.
Don't leave my germs on it. The resolution in front of you is actually signed last week on August 1st. We submitted it as part of a grant application for Tolley Park. We're asking council to ratify that resolution tonight. What the resolution does, as you read, is states that the matching share is readily available. It names the city manager as a designated contact for this, and dedicates the site for permanent park and recreational use.
Make
So
a
that's
motion
Tolley
to
Park.
approve 12A as written.
Second.
All right, we'll start with Councilman Benson.
Aye.
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 Ayes have it, 7-0. Thank you
Thank
very much,
you.
Ms. Miranda. All right, so we're going to jump on over to executive session because Mr. Garza's here. So we're going to 14, executive session. The city council will meet in executive session as authorized by the Texas Government Code, section 551.071, consultation with attorney, and 551.087, economic
quick-
development, to discuss the following. Go ahead.
Real quick, how many are here for appointments? One? Okay.
Yeah, we won't take long. Okay. A, update regarding Project CHAR, and other EDC projects. B, discuss whether to accept determination of ethics complaints reviewed by legal. C, investigations of the Palm Field subdivision, 4164 Lower Seguin Road, Cup. The time is now 8:05. Councilwoman Cunningham, if you have a motion for item 14B.
I make a motion to accept the legal opinion of our attorneys, of our hired third-party attorneys, to dismiss the ethics complaint filed by Steve Cooper against council members Hicks, Benson, and Mahoney.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, well, let's see, I guess we'll do a roll call, starting with,
Aye.
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 okay, so the ayes have it?
And the record reflect there were 3 abstentions.
Yeah, we have 4 ayes and 3 abstentions.
And I also make a motion to accept the legal opinion of our attorney and dismiss the ethics complaint filed by Eugene Chance against Mayor Allen.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, we'll do a roll call, starting with Councilman Hicks.
Aye.
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 Ayes have it, 7-0. All right, moving back up the agenda to 13A, discussion action on the removal appointments and reappointments to Planning and Zoning Commission, Board of Adjustments, Capital Improvement Program CIP Committee, Charter Review Committee, Master Plan Committee, Youth Council, Cibolo Economic Development Corporation Board, Animal Advisory Board, and all other committees, commissions, and boards, City Council. So I know we have one person here tonight for the Animal Advisory Board. Could you come on up to the podium, please, and state your name into the microphone?
My name is Jeanette Wilson.
Welcome, Jeanette.
Thank you.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, Jeanette, as far as your background with animals?
Yes, so right now I am the new Animal Services Manager, and I'm in on 3 weeks, and so far I like it. I'm very grateful to be here. Previously, I have 8 to 9 years in experience in animal welfare. I have managed animal shelters and worked in multiple positions as far as intake, adoptions manager, shelter manager, and worked very closely with the veterinarians. And I partnered with a lot of city shelters around San Antonio as well.
Thank you, Jeanette. And do you live in Cibolo?
I live in San Antonio.
San Antonio, okay. Okay, but you work at the facility, so.
Yes,
okay.
and I am applying for a house in Cibolo, so hopefully soon.
Awesome, all right.
I guess my question is, do you have good working relationship since you've got all this experience with rescues?
Yes,
rescue
sir.
groups?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'll make a motion to appoint her to the Animal Advisory Board.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None
Welcome.
opposed. Welcome aboard, Jeanette.
Thank you.
You didn't even need to bring out the little kitten.
I know.
Not our little
Yeah,
kitten.
2-week-old kitten that came out.
Put it on
Thank you
tape.
so much for
Thank you.
serving Cibolo. We appreciate it.
And everybody else that applied, Ms. Simics,
They're
didn't
not
show.
here, but
Okay.
I'd also like to ask if council could go ahead and remove 2 of the individuals from the Board of Adjustments. They have written in, it said that they could no longer be on that board because of work. Their work now takes them out of the city too much, and that is Mr. Troy Ragland and also Mr. Vincent Smith.
I'll make a motion to remove, I knew Troy, and he told me that it was a possibility that he was going to have to be removed. But I make a motion to remove both individuals that Ms. Simics just mentioned.
Do I hear a second? Okay. Katie, second? Okay, we'll start this one. Roll call at Councilman Benson, please.
Aye.
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 Ayes have it, 7-0. Katie, go ahead.
Miss Peggy, there is a note on our agenda briefing that says Maria Falcone would like to be removed from parks.
That's correct. I'm sorry about that one.
Okay.
Yes, she never really realized that she was ever appointed to that committee.
Okay.
She is on another committee, and she didn't realize that when she was appointed that you appointed her to the parks also. So she's never attended, so
Okay.
she does want to be removed from there also.
Then I make a motion to remove Maria Falcone from the Parks Committee.
Second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And if we could bring this agenda item back to the next council meeting, hopefully we'll have everybody show up for that one.
Katie, go ahead.
I would also like to make a motion to move the current District 3 appointee, who is actually from District 5 on P and Z, into the District 5 position. So there was someone on P and Z who was appointed to District 3 but was District 5, and now with District 5's vacancy, it makes sense to move that person to the District 5 spot.
Oh.
Okay. Okay, we got a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And was there any interest in covering your spot as far as Mr. Hines for District 3, P and Z?
Not at this time.
He hasn't expressed that to me that he'd like to move up to be in the regular.
He's right here. Do you want to come up to the microphone, Mr. Hines? You've been serving faithfully as a alternate so far, right?
My dad served alternately for
That's
6
all in the
years
eye
on
of
that as
the
an
observer, correct?
Yeah.
So when I originally spoke to the council, I said I'm willing to serve any and all capacities that I was requested to serve. So if Mr. Mahoney would like to appoint me as the District 3 rep, that would be fine and dandy. I would think that would be a great motion to do. And if you choose not to, I can respect that and continue as an alternate. But it's certainly up to you, Mr. Mahoney, to make the decision to do so.
Well, the way I see it, it's up to the whole council. It's really, I have asked before, I haven't seen the documentation that tells me I have authority over one position, or that it really is up to me. The tradition, I respect traditions, but I'd like to see this. I don't see it in the charter, these things about.
It's in the council's policies, and they're all being rewritten. They should be, that particular one should be coming back to you as a council in the next, I'd say, 45 days. That's the first one that's being rewritten. It'll go to the council as a whole by email so that you can make your changes after that. I'll have the old one with it and the new one. You can make your changes so that we can get them all together before you vote on your new one.
Changes in those policies?
Yes, there's lots of changes that need to be done in those policies. They're fairly old. They're probably maybe 5 years old right now, those policies.
When redistricting happens, will they have to be redone again, probably?
The only one that has, that would be the EDC and the P&Z, because right now, they're the only ones that are district with your boards and commissions right now. But it can be written into the new one where, you could still have a district representative on those for the 4 districts, and the 3 at-large people would still be able to put a person in. So it could be written into the way we're going to and I'll write it up and then I'll send it out, and you guys can do what you want with it until we get a final version. Hopefully we can have one done with all the changes and everything within the next 45 days. And it also includes how we do the appointments, because sometimes we're up here 1 hour trying to do appointments for a number of people, which it can be done in many different ways. And we've talked about this before. So the suggestion will be, I'll have several different suggestions, and then I'll just need the council to decide what is the best way to do that. But getting people in here and waiting around and then asking the same questions to everybody, is that the correct way of doing it? There's got to be better ways of doing it, so.
Mr. Mahoney, I would just add that the only difference between serving as an alternate the way I am currently versus being a dedicated District 3 representative on P&Z is that as the assignee of the District 3 post, I would always vote. In the event that there is a full table of that would be, 9 people, 8 to 9 people would show up on the P&Z meeting. The alternates can participate, easy for you to say, in the discussions, but the alternates would not be able to vote if you had more than 7 P&Z commissioners attend.
Right, and since Mr. Hines and Ms. Hubbard were appointed as the alternates, both of them have sat at that dais every single time because of the missing people of the regular members.
Yeah.
So he has been voting every time we've had a P&Z meeting.
Usually come to those meetings.
Yeah.
I have a question, Mr. Hines.
Sure.
I like that you clarified the alternate in the permanent position. And just, I appreciate all the history that you give based on, Cibolo. And just an area of concern, and I just say this, genuinely, excuse me, how often do you feel that in a permanent position that you might have to recuse yourself to where there's a smaller number of commissioners present, and then I don't know.
If I'm the
if you're the permanent,
if I am the permanent
right,
alternate 3,
right, and just
only when we sell property.
Okay, so I was just thinking, just as far as the P&Z board having that reliable vote, just about 100% of the time.
It wouldn't have any effect other than it'd be the same effect as what we had the last P&Z meeting.
Okay.
I recused myself from
Yes.
discussions and
Thank
votes.
you.
If we are selling property as we are now, and that
Or
would have some
rezoning,
sort of
Mr.
some sort of
Hines,
effect.
If you're rezoning, that would be another one that you'd.
Well,
need to
it's the same. It's the same. That's what's drawing this on right now. We're selling property for the rezoning. The request is the rezoning, and so that's why I recuse myself from
Absolutely,
discussion
yes.
and vote. I remove myself from any of the possibility of affecting a discussion or a vote. And that would happen the same way where I continue serving as alternate or as the dedicated District 3. That's a matter of character, but it's also a matter of ethics that each and all of us as elected and appointed trustees of our fine community here are, it's expected of us. It's not just expected of us, it's required of us. And so I honor that. But we only have so much property, we can only sell it once. So it's just, that's the only time that it would come up, any kind of question, no matter what capacity I serve. So.
We're going to have this come back up at the next council meeting, so. I mean, I give you the respect if you want to hold off, but we're going to have appointments at the next council meeting as well. So if you want to wait, you can wait if you want to.
Yeah.
I do have one thing that I would like to talk with Mr. Hines about before making voting on this myself, but I'll do that this week.
Okay. Sure. So we are going to have appointments, both meetings in August. So I know that you come to all of our meetings. So.
I'm that weird guy that's always out here. So yeah, that's what my wife asked me this afternoon. Are you that weird guy that always makes the videos? I think I wear that moniker. So
yeah, you've shown a tremendous dedication to the city. You're there at all the meetings. So even our last budget meeting. So
well, when we were out there campaigning together for the mayor position, it was just a decision. I'm going to serve.
Yes,
Whatever
sir.
capacity I'm serving, I'm going to serve. I don't take my ball and run home.
Absolutely.
So, you bet. So.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Hines. Okay, moving on. Any other appointments for today?
No, my EDC member elect could not make it tonight, but he will be able to come to the next meeting.
Okay. All right, moving on to D. Discussion action on authorizing the city manager to execute a work order with Lockwood Andrews Newman.
13B, sir.
13D. No, we're skipping those two for now. Land engineers to complete the required engineering, geotech services, surveying, designing, and construction oversight to complete the rehabilitate of Bolton Road, Lower Seguin Road, and Dean Road in the amount of $117,416. Mr. Foose.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, you caught me off guard when you went from A to D all in one shot.
I know. Peggy wanted me to put.
We're supposed to be on B.
Yeah, we're putting B and C after L. That's our change up.
Okay, thank you, sir. In front of you, we're looking at authorizing city manager to enter into a contract with LAN Engineers to complete all the engineering required for Bolton Road, Lower Seguin Road, and Green Valley Road. They've already started work on this. However, because the total amount of engineering is over $50,000, it requires city council action to authorize the city manager to complete that agreement. So that's why we're here.
Well, I'll make a motion then, sir, to approve 13D as written.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. We'll go ahead and start over there with Councilman Hicks.
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Foose.
No, sir, I got one more to go.
Okay, all right, we'll move on to 13E. Discussion action on authorizing the city manager to execute work order with Lockwood Andrews Newman Land Engineers to complete the required engineering, geotechnical services, surveying, design, building, and construction oversight to rehabilitate Green Valley Road 2 segments, Silver Wing, Firebird Run, and Town Creek Road in the amount of $245,000, $245K. Mr. Foose.
And I'll make a motion to approve this as written as well.
Thank you, sir.
All right, this time we'll go back over to Councilman Benson.
Aye.
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 Ayes have it,
Mayor and council,
7-0.
thank you very much. We'll get those executed right away and get working on all these things.
Thank you, Mr. Foose.
Thank you, Mr. Foose. Appreciate it.
Next up is F, discussion action to establish an interlocal agreement, ILA, between the City of Cibolo and the Southwest Texas Regional Advisory Council, STRAC, for the use of an electronic roads management system. Tracy Beacom.
Records, sir. It's this is going to be for our fire department.
Okay.
Currently, they are using what's called Zoll RMS, and Strack is moving to this new system. The new system does require us to have an ILA in place because we apparently do not have one. So that's why this is in front of y'all now.
Sorry, did I say records management system? Okay, so this is a ERM system. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right.
I make a motion to approve 13F.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. We'll start with Councilman Hicks.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, 7-0. Thank you, Tracy.
Yes, sir.
All right, next up is G, discussion action for purchase of AT&T Office at Hand Cloud PBX solution from AT&T Corporation through the Texas Department of Information Resources Co-op purchasing contract. DIR TELE CSTA 002 in the estimated amount of $36,963 for a 3-year contract period totaling $100,889. Tracy.
Yes, sir. This is to replace our current phone system. Our current phone system is it's a bit old. We are completely out of space. We can't add any more handsets to that system. So what this does is put our phones into the cloud. This actually what underpins this is Ring Central. So this sets us up to be more flexible in times of having to actually be home. You know, if we have another COVID or something like that, this allows us to carry on and continue on with business in the city. So,
very good.
So we're not going to pay the full $110,000, are we, up front?
No, sir, we are
okay.
not. We are
not to AT&T. So.
I have a real quick question about that very thing. Like, is there anybody else that does this?
I am sure there are other ones that are AT&T specific, but I know where I came from, we used Ring Central. It's one of the top tier solutions out there. So.
Does Spectrum do it around here?
They may. I couldn't tell you. I don't know.
I'm just trying to avoid certain companies
they don't.
right now.
Well, no. That's the big issue up here for the majority. As you can see, these 3 council people, me, myself, and the other 2, we've got issues with AT&T, and just wanting to verify that did we go and check other communications? Yeah.
It's on a cooperative purchasing contract, so it doesn't
well,
require a bid. That's why we didn't do an RFP for it. So.
It says here that you did several months of research. What other vendors did you research
So
for?
we looked at Ring Central 8x8. Oh my gosh, you asked me, so I can't remember any of them, but those were a couple of them. There are a few other ones out there. Zoom is another one that I looked at.
Zoom has one?
They do. They do.
So
they offer a
I know that we
package.
use Microsoft 365. Is there a reason why we couldn't use the Microsoft Teams software for this?
The Microsoft Teams is a great product for what it is, but as far as being a PBX system, it's not where it should be. It wouldn't suit us well, unfortunately.
To hear a motion.
I make a motion to approve 13G.
Do I hear a second? Okay, I got a motion and a second. We'll start with Councilman Benson this time.
Nay.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
All right, who said nay? Could you hold your hands up? Okay.
Those 2.
We got
It was a
2
4-3
nays?
vote.
Okay.
3.
What was the other nay?
4-3.
Normal. Okay, so 4-3. All right. Thank you.
Yep, yes, sir.
Tell them that they need.
Thank you, Tracy. All right, moving on to H. 13H, discussion action regarding the GVEC Power Up Grant application for electric vehicle EV charging stations located at 107 South Main. Project Electrode. Kelsey Lee, how you doing?
Hello,
Hello again. So I'm very excited to bring this forward to you today. So last year, the Cibolo EDC Board of Directors directed city staff to explore applying for the GVEC Power Up Grant, specifically to assist with costs associated with improvements to the city-owned parking lot there at 107 South Main, so the one that's not on the railroad tracks, but across from where Harmon's is and next to Global Realty Group. Yes, that one. Yes. So the presence of EV charging stations has been requested in an effort, one, to align with state and federal goals of having readily available fueling infrastructure for electric vehicles, but also as a tourism initiative to help attract more traffic to our Old Town Cibolo, looking at these level 2 chargers that take a little bit of time, so that way visitors or residents can be encouraged to come downtown, plug in, and then spend a couple hours shopping, dining, exploring our Old Town area. So this would be the first step in applying for a grant and potentially getting EV charging stations downtown. Just a little bit of highlights about the Power Up Grant. These are projects that have to be capital in nature and new project oriented, and they have to be completed within 12 months of the date the grant money is awarded. So the deadline for the next funding round is actually August 15th, which is why we're bringing it to you today. Because the EDC has allocated in their proposed budget for next fiscal year to fund the matching portion of the grant, but the grant would actually be under the name of the city of Cibolo and under the city's FIN number. But again, the grant funding would come from the EDC's budget. They've already approved this in their proposed budget that council will have final say over. So we have the draft the draft grant in your packet that our new grant writer helped assist in putting together with based on a quote that we received from GVEC. I would like to just mention, though, that we got a quote from GVEC just to have kind of a range of what the cost could be. However, based on the expected cost of this, it would be something that we would need to go out and get different quotes for, so that way we could compare pricing, best terms for the city and the EDC. And then because it would be over the $10,000, after the EDC approved the contract, it would come back to the city council for final approval before selecting a vendor. Yes. Go for it.
I know that I've got a constituent that would love to see this happen. He's came to several council meetings. He's been to several of the EDC board meetings. So I'm all for this, and I'll make a motion to approve us moving forward with this. I understand you'll have to come back and all that, but I'll make a motion to approve.
Before you do, can I get a little more information on this? So it's the GVEC Power Up Grant, right? And so basically, we're putting it out there that we want GVEC to make this roundup, right? It's the roundup thing where, like, if you owe like $350.10 and they'll round it up to $332. Okay. And so we're asking them to fund this, right? And so GVEC would bring in the charging stations, and they would pay to have them installed, and then also pay to power them, or would we pay the electric bill?
There would be a cost to it. So the ongoing maintenance would be an expectation of the EDC to continue to budget for that. Okay. As far as how it would work, so it's a competitive grant program. So we submit it. We wouldn't find out until October if we were successful. We did include kind of the different criteria that they're evaluating it on. But it's a matching grant. So we've been told that most of the awards are up to $20,000 is what they would maximum reimburse. And so that would be close to about a 50% match that they would provide. So it would still be on the city/EDC to go and secure the vendors. They don't dictate who we use or anything like that, although they do provide the service. So we would get a quote and compare it to other vendors. And then we would pay for it and then reimburse up to that 50%.
Okay, so we would get at the most $20K from GVEC, and then the rest of it would be on our Cibolo Economic Development Corporation to pay for the rest, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And the EDC did budget sufficient funds to cover that match. Again, it's up to probably $20,000. They don't give an exact number, but that's kind of what we've heard that we could potentially be eligible for.
And have y'all taken have y'all looked at what the cost is for this thing? charging stations?
Yes, so the quote that we did get was from GVEC because they
Mhm.
provide it, and to do the 3 charging stations that would be owned by the EDC or city, I mean, we have to figure out like a lease and how that actually goes on that, right? But that and including any upgrades to the breaker that's needed and all the installation comes out to about $38,000.
Oh, okay, so right on the money. Okay.
Is this a
And-
one-time?
Yes, but we'll,
Who pays for the electricity?
That's what I was saying. So the cost of that, there's a cost to obviously to use the charging stations, right? And so there would be, so yes.
Okay. Also, would it be like, let's just say there's 3 of them, right? Maybe like 2 Teslas and then one that's for non-Tesla cars, right? Have y'all looked at that?
I think they're looking at, I don't know, Justin Trish is here, but I don't know if the EDC was looking at the universal where it'll work on all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure.
I don't have one, so I don't know. If
Be the
they're-
preference. I would say that's part of what we would do if the EDC and city were successful in getting the grants. That would be part of us going and getting the quotes and, you know, getting the best kind of deal. Makes sense that we would bring back for your final consideration.
Okay. Yeah, looks good. All right, so we have a motion.
I
Any
have-
other questions?
Yeah, I've got a comment about this. It's not personal experience, but a family member owns a business in Wimberley, and his experience with this, he reported to me about 6 or 8 months ago, and today I talked to him on the phone again just to reconfirm some of the details. He has a resort B&B kind of place, and Tesla reached out to them and said, can we do this at no charge to you? We're looking for good locations, prime customers, et cetera, and it'll put you on the map. And so I asked him, what was your final total cost for all this, about the labor end of it, maintenance, et cetera, and so I'm shocked when I hear these numbers that you're saying. It was a couple of years back, but his total cost for the trenching from a power pole and all these things was around $3,000. And the Tesla equipment was one charging station. He said it had their proprietary hookup to a Tesla car, but it had a second one called Clipper or something that's a universal thing for other brands. Now, I don't know if Tesla still feels that generous trying to get their places on the map, but I feel like somebody needs to reach out to them and invite them to do something similar. It won't cost us so much.
I'm surprised that, Mr. Mahoney, I'm surprised because I didn't realize Tesla would allow a universal, because you go up to HEB, it's all Tesla. You go up to Buc-ee's, it's all Tesla.
Yep.
It's not a
I
universal.
think they just recently may have signed an agreement with Ford. And I think it's specific to the EV Mustang.
Not your truck?
Not my truck.
Well, anyway, so there are some alternative ways to do this without us spending 20 or 30 or 40,000 and talking about matching numbers. And I'm not against having a particular place here. I'd like to see something in the way of a test to demonstrate that there's a need. Maybe cars will be there all the time and bring businesses some more revenue. That would be great, but can we get there without spending that much money?
I think right now time's of the essence for the grant.
I would say if
Yeah,
it,
because of October.
right.
So we probably should apply for the grant.
See how.
In the meantime, we do our research.
Yeah. If we don't get the grant, then we ask
And
Tesla.
we don't have to take the grant if we get it.
Yeah.
Correct,
Okay.
yes. And so if the city and EDC is successful in getting the grant, again, we can go, we're not held necessarily to what these projections are, it's just an estimate. And so if we can come to an agreement with an alternate vendor like Tesla where it comes in lower, then we could use that instead. Of course, the matching grant we might get $1,000 to match to $3,000, but we can definitely pursue that as well.
One other comment. He said that there is a vendor he knows that did all the hookup, an electrician in the Braunfels, that this is all he does, is hook these things up. So the GVEC path is probably wonderful, great work, but they want to funnel us all into doing it in only one way that might be kind of pricey. interest.
Absolutely, right, and that's as I mentioned. So we got a quote from GVEC because they are a community partner. They're trusted. We know them, but we're not in any way obligated to use them if through the process it's found that it's not the best interest of the city or EDC.
But we do have an agreement with GVEC, because that's how we have all these lights around the city, is we've got an agreement with GVEC. That's why we have all these lights that people request.
And then I just wanted to request a copy of the final grant application. When y'all submit it, I want to just look at it.
Sure. Yeah, we can ask Ms. Martinez to help provide that.
Okay, we've got a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we'll start with Councilman Benson this time.
Nay.
Hey.
Aye.
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 Ayes have it, 6-1. Thank you very much, Ms. Lee.
Thank you. We'll keep you updated as we progress through the process.
Okay, moving on to I, discussion action regarding the preliminary acceptance of public infrastructure for Buffalo Crossing 2, Subdivision 4. Mr. Otto.
So Buffalo Crossing Unit 4 is a 16.4 acre development with 53 residential lots. And I did go out there and did a couple of walkthroughs on it. We prepared a punch list. The contractor addressed all of the punch list items. There are, sorry, I'm trying to find the table. Water, there's 3,002 linear feet of water. There's 2,839 linear feet of sanitary sewer. There is no public drainage on this one, and there's 2,861 linear feet of street. The total infrastructure value being dedicated to the city of Cibolo is $1.168 million. I have been out to the site on several occasions. I do find that the infrastructure is in good condition and in general conformance with the construction documents, and therefore I am recommending preliminary acceptance of the infrastructure.
The streets all look good.
The streets in Unit 4 look good.
Okay. I've got a quick question for Mr. Reed, though. Last council meeting, we had this same type of, wasn't them, but it was on consent agenda. How come this one and the next one weren't on consent agenda this item? Because they were on consent agenda. We had Homestead had one on a consent agenda, the last one.
I mean, I can answer.
So this one where you're accepting the infrastructure, you have to make a motion to approve it versus the consent agenda is what
Okay.
Ms. Simics and I are
appreciate
discussing
it.
over here.
Okay. I was just wondering because last time it was.
Okay, do we got a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve 13I is written.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. We'll start with Councilman Hicks.
Aye.
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 Ayes have it, 7-0. And go ahead and, okay, next one will be Huerta. All right. Next up is 13J, discussion action regarding the preliminary plat of Barsalou Estates. Ms. Huerta.
I don't know. Barcelou, Barcelao, I have no idea.
Both Barcelou.
Heather? Barcelao.
Is it French?
Yeah.
Is that French? Barcelou.
It's not German.
This is the preliminary plat of Barcelao Estates, which is located at 1809 Green Valley Road. You considered a variance for this plat earlier in the agenda, and that was the only item missing. Since posting of the agenda, they have resolved all the comments, and the only one that was pending was the variance. Since that's approved, staff is ready to recommend approval of the plat.
This is the one on Green Valley?
Yes.
Correct.
It's
Okay.
the 51, or 60 feet to 51.
Very
I got a
good.
quick question. On-site septic facilities, I know that the current house has it. Why wouldn't we be providing sewer service for the new one? Is
Do you
it per
know,
choice
Heather?
of the,
I think it's septic, right, over there?
right, on-site septic? Okay, that's why I had that written down, right here, I wanted to find out why we're not providing sewer for it, so, and why it was a septic. Okay, that's why I had it written or listed. I'll make a motion to approve 13J as written.
I second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. We'll start with Councilman Benson.
Aye.
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 Ayes have it, 7-0. Thank you. All right, next up is 13K, discussion action regarding the preliminary plat of Homestead, Unit 2. Ms. Huerta.
Yes, this is Homestead Unit 2. It's planned unit development. The proposed use is single-family residential. Ever since, from the time that the agenda was posted to now, they have met all the outstanding conditions, so therefore staff is ready to recommend approval of this preliminary plat.
Any discussion?
No, I just have one comment, Mayor. And so on this one, we did have it filled out right because the last one that we approved, it said Green Valley SUD water, Green Valley SUD sewer. So this one is correct. I'll make a motion to approve 13K as written.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. We'll start with Councilman Hicks.
Aye.
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 Ayes have it, 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Huerta.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to 13L, presentation, discussion, direction to staff regarding the city manager's proposed financial year FY24 budget. Mr. Reed and Ms. Miranda. We will do after L. So we're supposed to do L first, then we come back to CD.
I will start by saying that the presentation will look very similar to your workshop presentation. I've highlighted differences in purple font. And then also the presentation tonight will look slightly different from your packet, and those differences are highlighted in red font.
Thank you, Anna. I was going to say mayor and city council. I'll just start by saying city council. Look down for a minute. He disappeared. Let me start by saying I want to start by thanking the staff members who contributed to the city manager's FY24 proposed budget. The budget process is a team sport. I want to thank Anna Miranda for her leadership throughout the process. Thank you, Anna. I'm appreciative of every department head and my executive assistant. Thank you, Peggy, Tracy, Brian, Tim, Bruce, Kelsey, Mario, and those that are not with us right now. Department heads submitted their base budgets on time and participated in meetings with me and Ms. Miranda to review their base budgets and requests. And each followed up as requested so that we could maintain a schedule that brought you information as early as June about your 5-year CIP, multiple presentations in regular city council meetings, and a very in-depth budget workshop in July so that we could stand here tonight with a proposed budget that you are well informed on, that you helped develop. Many department heads were asked to make additional presentations, including Bruce Knott, Chief Troncoso, Chief Wells, and Brian Huggins. Several others, other staff members have stepped up to create documents or conduct research. Each member has been instrumental in small and large ways to help me stand before you tonight with the city manager's proposed FY24 budget. Lastly, I want to thank the mayor and each one of you for your time, your energy, and your direction. You have participated in 2 budget workshops, one in June and one in July, and listened to other presentations at regular city council meetings. Each time you gave me and the city staff clear direction so that we can deliver to you a budget that aligns with your priorities in a fiscally responsible way, one that incorporates your strategic plan into where you put funding. You should be proud of yourselves for using the council strategic plan in the budget setting process. The proposed budget does align with your FY24 draft strategic plan. On this slide, what is in red shows that we added this question today so that we want your feedback on the ones that are in your packet. Plus, do you want to amend any expenses in the proposed budget? Now, I want to add that the city manager's FY24 proposed budget is a work in progress. I have said this 2 years running. This is my 3rd year. So as I stand here before you tonight in early August, it remains something that will continue to change based upon your direction and based upon new, more current data, based upon direction that you give August 22nd. We'll continue to make changes to it as new and revised information is available, and as I said, based on your direction. As Ms. Miranda and I present tonight, I want you to keep these questions at the front of mind so that you can give us direction and allow city staff to make final changes to the budget between now and September 12th. Really, September 1st, when the packet is due to the city secretary's office. That's 24 days from tonight. Some specific items that remain in flux that we are still working on include revenues. We will receive another month of sales tax revenues for the month of June this Wednesday, although I can assume it will not change our projected FY24 sales tax revenue projection. It is important that we consider the latest data so that we are more confident in representing to you that our forecast, we can stand behind those numbers. Also, we're confirming the likelihood of a large commercial project which would have a building permit issued in FY24, which would be significant revenue. Utility fee options. You asked to have options on the FY24 fees for water utilities at your budget workshop. This presentation tonight includes an update to that for you to give us direction. Healthcare expenses. We are still finalizing healthcare costs. Bruce Knott will present on this at the August 22nd council meeting. 5-year CIP. We're seeking direction tonight on some of the final details of the 5-year CIP. The school resource officers. We're confident in the expenses as calculated by Mr. Huggins and that have been shared with the Schertz Cibolo Universal City ISD. We'll continue to communicate with the ISD over the next few weeks to make sure those numbers remain solid. Defeasance of debt. Tonight we are asking you to confirm if you want to defease debt so that we can pay down principal ahead of schedule so that the Cibolo taxpayers are paying less in interest payments over the life of the debt. This is like a homeowner paying their mortgage off early and you save on that interest payment. It's good stewardship of public dollars. If yes, you will need to set the INS tax rate at 17.93 cents out of your total tax rate. As proposed, this will save some $500,000 in interest payments. Solid waste rates. Tom Armstrong with Republic Services will present to council the proposed rate changes for your consideration at the August 22nd meeting. And last, and definitely not least, because I'm only giving you examples of things that show that this is a work in progress, is your debt model. And you'll hear from Ms. Miranda on this. We're continuing to work with the city financial advisor at Specialized Public Finance to finalize the debt model and the debt capacity so that you have a debt model that reflects what is in your 5-year CIP, that can support your 5-year CIP. Right, with those questions on front of mind, here is the presentation. Given the length of the presentation, this is your annual budget, so it's a little longer than some of the other presentations tonight. I will just look to the mayor to ask council if you want to take a 5-10 minute break after the operating funds if council desires. Also, the text shown in the light blue, I'm going to reiterate what Ms. Miranda said. reflect what we have updated since the budget workshop, and what's in red is what we have added to this presentation. We are at an important milestone in the budget process. Tonight, Council is considering the City Manager's proposed FY24 budget in compliance with the City Charter. And while not shown on this slide, we are coming back to you on August 22nd for you to have one more opportunity to provide clarity and direction. And this right here is just recapping the adoption process. So we are here tonight. We have incorporated council feedback provided at both budget workshops. Funds and line item detail for current and proposed budgets. Your historical balances for FY22 actual and FY23 end of year estimates. I already talked about your next council meeting. And again, for September 12th, in 24 days, we have to deliver to the City Secretary's office your budget packet. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Miranda at this point. Put that down below. I'll hand that out at the end.
We did talk about the tax rate a little bit at the budget workshop. The no new revenue rate, formerly known as the effective rate, is the tax that would produce the same amount of revenue on the same properties taxed in both years, and that is 4403, 44 cents, a little over 44 cents. The voter approval rate is the calculated sum of the M&O NNR rate plus 3.5% plus the calculated INS rate. This is the maximum rate allowed by law without going to the voters for approval. This proposed budget is using a 46.99 rate and will require a public hearing prior to adoption. Operating funds. The budget book was provided to you. I know it was a lengthy document. I see how big your packets are tonight. I actually have it printed in a binder, but mine's probably two-sided. Yours may not be. But the total operating funds, the general fund is $23 million this year. Wastewater is 17.1. Drainage utility district is 1.4. These are the funds that are used in the day-to-day operations of the city. It's a combined total of $41.5 million. This is a $2.9 million increase from the prior year, or 7.5% increase over current, with most of that being in the water wastewater fund, 90% of that. Overview of the general fund. Based on the feedback from the July 27th workshop, we did add to the budget a 3% for performance pay pool. The 4 additional SROs and the related revenue from SCUC related to that, $10,000 into strategic partnership grants, and supporting Cibolo Fest at an estimated $30,000.
Can I hold you up right there? I found out this week that nobody knew that we didn't know the answer on the SROs. I did find out this week that Gulf Learning Center does have students at that campus. So with that being said, you gotta look at that. I just found out that I had to go pay for my season tickets, and I asked them, do y'all have any students here? And they said, yes, we do. So I just wanted to bring that.
Okay.
Y'all's attention.
We may have an item then on August 22nd to consider related to that. The projected ending fund balance at 9/30/24 is at 28%, or $6.1 million. For reference, the general fund is starts on page 7 of that proposed budget book. General fund revenues are proposed to be $23.3 million. It's a $2.2 million increase from what we are estimating for fiscal year end this year. Before compiling the budget book, I did adjust revenues for proposed fee adjustments. So if you compared that to the presentation of July 27th, you'll see some changes in each of those lines, some minor changes. The most significant change is in the intergovernmental and transfers, where we did add the additional $300,000 almost in revenue from SCUC for the interlocal agreement. Sales tax is our second largest single source of revenue. This revenue has grown by 472% in the last 10 years, averaging almost 20% annually. We are projecting 15.8% growth for fiscal year 24 with anticipated new businesses coming online. So we did a growth trend plus adding the new additional revenue from new businesses and came up with the 15.8%. It always is staggering to me to look at that chart. It's doubled more than twice in the last 10 years. General fund expenses are at $23 million within our recurring revenues. It exceeds our estimated year end by $419,000 or 1.9%. Although $1.7 million increase is in salaries and benefits, that is offset by reductions in other categories, especially you'll notice the capital related items. So we've used one-time money in the past to purchase capital items, and that's not being done or proposed in this year. Other changes that were made again is the Cibolo Fest transfer and the $10,000 for the strategic partnership grants. Overview of the water wastewater fund, that is starting on page 70 of your proposed budget book. Revenue does cover the increased cost. We budgeted revenue to cover the increased costs of water and wastewater services, wastewater at 3.5%. And what's included in your budget is a 5% increase in the water rates and an increased water acquisition fee from $6 to $7.50. We did we did another scenario for you so that we could show what a 3.5% increase would be, so 3.5% on both water and wastewater, and that would result on a $3 increase on water acquisition fees. Just note that a flat fee increase does benefit the higher consumption users. I have a handout related to this so that you can see how different customers at different consumption amounts are impacted, and I can pass that out right now.
While you're passing that out, I was at a conference last Friday, maybe Friday before, and there's close to $10 billion that the state has set aside for water acquisition. Are we looking into that, where we can get a...
That has to go to the voters, Joel, on the, I think this November. As long as 50% of the voters approve it, then we're good. But it still has to go to the voters. I'm sure they'll approve it. There's like 14 amendments that go to the voters. But yeah, it'll probably get approved. But it'd be great, yeah.
As part of my discussion later, my item.
Sure. Yeah, I saw that.
I need a copy. I should have had my copy handy. So the top section is an average bill at current rates at several different consumption levels. So my understanding, in talking to both Tim and Maggie, our consumption level average throughout the city for water is about 7,500. The wastewater winter average is calculated at 5,200, so most people use less water in the winter. But I did use the consumption level of 5,200, 7,500, 12,000, 15,000, and then a really high bill at 30,000 consumption. And with the 3.5% increase in wastewater and 5% increase in water rates, and a $7.50 water acquisition fee, you can see that at the lower consumption level, it would be a 6.2% increase on the lower level customer and 4.9% on the higher end customer at 30,000. And that variance gets even bigger when you go to scenario 2, which is a 3.5% increase in both water and wastewater, and a $3 increase in the water acquisition fee. And the range there is 7.2% over current rates, $5.44 at 5,200 consumption level, and at 30,000 consumption level, it'd be an increase of $15.65 or 4.3%. So that range is broader or wider at scenario 2. So that's something to think about as you go through the rest of this presentation. The water wastewater fund does include 2 additional labor positions, capital outlay of $682,000, increase in the franchise fee from 2% to 3%, and increase in the share of the administrative costs of the Public Works Administration budget. The revenue shown as $17.5 million is a $1.3 million increase over the 23 year-end estimate, or 8%. And these do continue to grow our fund balance for future capital needs and for future water acquisition. Our fiscal year 24 base budget, including the 3% performance pay pool in this fund as well, and future water acquisition to replace current water that we have now. Our costs are at $17.1 million, which is a $2.2 million increase over the year-end estimate, or 15% increase. The Drainage Utility District is starting on page 84 of your budget book, and we did recommend a rate increase of 50 cents per LUE, and we recommend also changing the cap on commercial. Currently, it's 125 LUE cap on commercial business. We have very few businesses that fall over a certain threshold, but the difference between 1 million square feet and, a 3 million square foot impervious coverage area still pays $750 cap. So we recommend changing that as we grow our businesses and grow larger businesses, attract larger businesses, that fee cap would be eliminated eventually. I also have a handout for that recommended tier structure.
Ms. Miranda?
Yes, sir.
Remind me, what does LUE stand for?
It's
I'm having one of those moments.
Living unit equivalent.
There you go.
And you know what? I should be saying ERU. What is ERU? Equivalent residential unit. Equivalent residential
Well,
unit.
in fact, I had one of my neighbors one time say, I don't understand why y'all need to use all these acronyms all the time. Maybe to take and spell it out would be a little better.
And what I read today is that an ERU is equivalent to 3,400 square feet, 3,412. And so I was able to put the square feet on there, and then the magic number for acres, I included acres as well. So anything under 9.8 acres would be no cap. And then from 125 ERUs to 300, which is the 9.8 acres to 23.5 acres, would be capped at that $812.50, which is the equivalent of the $750 with the new 50-cent rate increase. And then a tier from 300 to 450 ERUs, capped at $1625, which is twice that. And then a tier 450 to 600 would be a $2,500 cap, and above that a $3,000 cap. I believe we only have 1 or 2 customers that fall over the 300 ERUs. And so, for example, right now, Walmart would pay the same as, or Action would pay the same as Walmart. So Walmart is, falls in the first category, 125 to 300 ERUs. But we have, much larger businesses that would fall outside that category. The drainage utility budget does include capital outlay of $163,000, again increasing the franchise fee from 2% to 3%, and the share of the administrative costs for the Public Works administrative budget. The only change from the budget workshop is to salaries and benefits, and that is for the 3% performance pay pool that also applies to the drainage utility district. It does show a expenses exceeding revenues, but within one-time costs of $200,000 or so. So we didn't recurring expenses don't exceed recurring revenues. Overview of the Economic Development Fund. The ending fund balance projected at 9/30/24 is $1.8 million. This is on page 89 of your budget book. This is not considered an operating fund, and we do accumulate. The goal is to accumulate fund balance for specific projects. In this year, those projects would be the Downtown Master Plan update, the Economic Development grants of $98,000, and of course paying the debt service for the multi-event center and for the land acquisition. I did put on here the FM 78 corridor plan update that was budgeted, but I think at this time we're not recommending that we move forward with that. Instead, just staying with the Downtown Master Plan update. The overall decrease in the Economic Development Fund from fiscal year 23 to fiscal year 24 of $246,000 is related to an incentive that was budgeted in 23 and is a non-recurring item, so it doesn't carry over to fiscal year 24. Overview of the debt service fund. This is where I made a few changes. The ending fund balance is projected to be $1329, which is 20.5% of debt service obligations. It didn't change a whole lot from the prior presentation, but what did change was the defeasance. So we did add on there that considering a defeasance resolution could generate an additional $530,000, as well as generate additional capacity for capital projects. So those changes were made to increase revenue for that amount and show that payment to escrow for $530,000. The detail of the debt service requirements did not change. On the special revenue funds, there are a couple of changes here. We've added the $30,000 in revenue to Cibolo Fest to balance that fund. We added the PEG fund, which I inadvertently omitted from the workshop presentation, to show that we have a fund balance of $61,000 going into fiscal year 24 and adding $30,000 in revenue. And I made a change to the ARPA funds expenses, which will go into more detail in the following slides. In this section of special revenue funds, the changes that were made were to wastewater impact fees, park development fees, and street maintenance tax, and that's to include funding for the Parks Master Plan, the Pavement Management Plan, and to reduce funding for a wastewater project that will be funded through 2012 revenue bonds, remaining bonds that we have. Looking specifically at ARPA grant, the items that council recommended funding at budget workshop number 2 is the fiscal impact model, the retail market study, the IT strategic plan, the fire ISO study, the resident survey, and the Cibolo Winter Nights ice skating, and these are part of your strategic council strategic goals, as well as capital outlay for the renovation at City Hall, the additional cost of fiber to city facilities, and the animal services facility improvements, which also goes on your CIP for $500,000. The original projects that are still within ARPA funds, budgeted in ARPA funds, is the Water Interconnect, Shady Meadows, Deer Creek Drainage, and the Green Valley Low Water Crossing for $1.9 million. We're also proposing funding a portion of personnel costs from remaining ARPA funds. We did also include as I mentioned before, the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, Warbler Woods and Schlother Park improvements under the parkland fees, and the Pavement Management Plan under street maintenance. These changes are highlighted in red from what's in your budget book, but I believe Mr. Reed would like to review the 5-year CIP.
And then I will have another handout. It's really the 5-year CIP that you see up there, but I want to emphasize the alignment between what is being presented tonight and what your direction has been at the past workshop.
I think I already got one of those, Mr. Reed. Didn't you give those to Benson and Tix and I?
I did.
Okay.
Yes. So, Council, we've done a fine comb review of where do we pay for the projects that you have said you want done in FY24. What I handed to you here, and I highlighted in yellow, is you said you wanted these projects done in FY24. And so we've cross-referenced your budget workshop with the list that you see here tonight. It is consistent and identical to what your direction has been. So we need it. So on this worksheet right here, we did not have the engineering for Dean, Bolton, and Lower Seguin Road, and that is why you see on this slide the $117,500 being added as an FY24 project.
But Mr. Reed, didn't we add or remove? You're going to get to that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then on this slide here, these are payable from future bonds. So we will come back to you after you adopt the budget to ask you to support the issuance of tax notes to fund the projects here, or as Ms. Miranda may suggest, other debt models. In the Council CIP subcommittee meeting, which occurred prior to the regular council meeting tonight, I discussed with the mayor, Mr. Hicks and Mr. Benson, that the Deer Creek Boulevard, we do not have an estimate for that. And Deer Creek Boulevard, south of Cibolo Valley Drive down to the newer portion, which is near the low water crossing, remains in good condition. And so we would like to not keep that in the FY24, but make that an FY25 project. We still need to collect the cost for it, the estimated cost. We will do that. We'll have that in the final budget as I'm recommending an FY25 reconstruction, and so I look to council for direction on that. The council subcommittee supported moving that over, given the number of projects that you're supporting in FY24.
Okay, because I was just thinking FY25 is already at 25.5 million.
Yeah, but that's
for
20
bond.
million.
That's
Yes, but I was just thinking if you're moving 100,000 plus the TBD over to 25, is there something lower price like the brush truck that we could move into 24?
If I can, if you'll notice in FY25, the two largest items are the public safety facility and the animal shelter facility. So those are singular facilities that if the voters approve, we would be initiating that. So if you take out the 20.8 million from that 25, all other projects combined are less than $5 million.
Okay.
And then moving on from this, the last page here is we did add, because it was your direction from your project, it's an ARPA-funded CIP, and that is improving the existing animal services facility up to about a $500,000 investment. Any questions on your 5-year CIP with specific emphasis on your FY24? All right. Thank you very much. I'm going to turn this back over to Ms. Miranda.
The next slide is your debt model, and I'm going to hand out your new debt model. I'm not nearly as thoughtful. So this slide is changed from what's in your packet. We received this information this morning, and the calculation had previously omitted column M, which is the frozen taxes.
Sorry, didn't mean to throw you off.
Adding that component in does change the debt model from the 32 million previously shown to you to 38 million, so it's an increase of $6 million in debt capacity. So we wanted to make sure to share that with you tonight. The second handout that you have is the defeasance calculation, which shows that the amount available for defeasance would be approximately that $530,000. After this evening, we will be placing the proposed budget book on the city website, also putting a link on Facebook and a link at the kiosk at the digital library. Our public hearings are proposed to be on September 12th, and that's for the budget and the tax rate. And there are action items tonight for council to approve that date for those public hearings. So the next steps on August 22nd, we would bring back to you the fee schedule and also seek your feedback on, once you've had a chance to absorb all this information, seek your feedback on any potential budget changes, and then bring back a final proposed budget on September 12th for your consideration. Also having some citizen engagement on that evening with a public hearing on both the budget and the tax rate, and then proceeding with adoption of the budget, the tax rate, and the defeasance resolution. So the feedback we're seeking tonight, as Mr. Reed mentioned earlier, is whether or not you have any expenses that you'd like to amend in the proposed budget, whether or not you support the tax rate of $46.99, the options for the water rate increase, finalizing that 5-year CIP, and supporting the defeasance resolution.
And council,
What was our tax rate again right now? I'm sorry.
48.35.
Okay.
and council, I want to provide you one more handout that is in draft form, but this is a messaging piece of material for you. How do you communicate your budget? And I know Mr. Hetzel walks around all the time when he has his folder with the dollar bill. So I really want to highlight, what are you able to achieve with the proposed budget and a tax rate of 46.99? So people may ask, well, where do my tax dollars go? The dollar bill says for every dollar collected by the city of Cibolo, you can see that police and fire make up nearly 50% before you do anything else. And then the other major service areas are broken down right there. I really like this piece right here, and we've done that since year one that I've done the budget process with you. And then after that, I'm trying to provide you in concise language. So what does this mean? So what are you approving? You are approving all funds exceeding $50 million. We're a corporation now that exceeds $50 million in annual expenditures with the major funds listed here. The proposed tax rate of 46.99 from the existing 48.35 tax rate. The top part just reminds you what no new revenue is and the voter approval rate. Underneath it, what does this tax rate mean to a Cibolo homeowner? I'll read. A Cibolo homeowner with an average home value of $335,000, that's per the Guadalupe Appraisal District Certified 2023 tax roll that we received this year, will pay $1,574 in municipal ad valorem tax based on the proposed tax rate of $46.99. The average home value has increased from $304K in 2022 to $335K in 2023. As a result of the increased average home value over the past year, a homeowner with an average home value will pay an additional $104 for you to have the expenditures in this budget. The proposed FY24 budget will raise more total property taxes than last year's, that's FY23, by $1.4 million, that's just over 10%, and of that amount, nearly $700,000, just under 50%, is tax revenue that is. And then the second page, I just asked Frank Garza, since his firm represents several cities, Frank, do any of your cities still not do any defeasance of debt? And he said no. So your proposed INS tax rate of 17.93 cents will generate an additional $530,000 to defease debt during FY24. This means that you are reducing interest payments over the life of debt combined last year and this year. At your direction, the city of Cibolo is paying off its debt early, saving Cibolo taxpayers from the life of the loan or the debt and the interest paid on it, just like you paying off your mortgage early. That's good public stewardship. Unfunded state mandate, you're paying, at this point, we understand it to be roughly $130,000 to fund the SROs. Personnel highlights, there's enough there for me not to reiterate that. Cibolo Fest, your support of that. The strategic partnerships that we've covered in this presentation. And that ambitious list of CIP projects in FY24 total $17 million. Now, we're doing two big projects right now that are over $16 million. The amount isn't big, it's the ambitious list of projects that you're asking us to execute on in FY24. So I hope you appreciate this. We're going to continue to refine it. And I welcome, if any of you have a suggestion, we're here to make this better because it's for you to communicate with the public. It's for us to use to communicate to the public as well. With that, we're going to go over the questions that are on the screen, but I'd like to start, if you go back to your utility rates and the handout that Ms. Miranda provided you, what direction would you like us to take on the water rates?
Kind of like that other scenario. Was that the option scenario 2?
I like scenario 1.
Yeah, I'm just doing some calculations over here. The tier thing bothers me. Because if I get over 30,000 units, I'm paying less than I am if I'm right at the same amount that if I'm using 7,500. So it's great calculations, a great sheet, but if it's like Costco water here, right? I mean, I'm buying in bulk, so I'm saving almost as much as the second lowest users.
Right.
Well, it doesn't matter what you do to their rate then, because they're always going to be less. So we got to discuss that at some point, because that doesn't make any sense to me that you're going to be paying less than the second lowest users. So you can't really affect their rate at all for those 2-3 customers that are 30,000 units. Changing anything on them is not going to really change anything for as far as revenue. That seems odd. I'm not trying to be all, like I was on the mayor the other night, he's like, tax them. But I'm just saying, using 30,000 gallons of water plus, and you're paying almost a less rate than people using 7,500 gallons.
I'm not sure, I understand.
So if you just take the numbers that you gave us, right, and you say, well, if they pay at 30,000, either scenario, it doesn't really matter. 264.61 is their meter, and their consumption level is 30,000 gallons. You just divide the numbers and just take them all as units of whatever, right? Call them gallon, I don't know. They're only paying on the first scenario, they're only paying $118.37 per unit. And the guys at 7,500 are paying 112.86, 12,000 is 118. But if you go to the next one, that 3.5%, they're actually paying 115 a unit versus 114 a unit at 7,500. So something's, in my mind, something's wrong with the tier, because if you go up to 30,000 gallons, you're actually paying less per unit of water than almost all customers.
And the tier structure is not set up that way. I think it's because the base fee of, it's about $25, $30, is flat for everybody, and so it's gonna be a higher percentage on.
I'm just using your numbers.
Well, no, yeah, I understand, but
doing math here.
the base fee is a flat rate, and so everybody pays that $30 to begin with. And it's a smaller percentage on somebody who uses
Okay, but
30,000 gallons.
If I just take your meter at 5096, at 5,200 consumption level, say right at 5,200, and I pay $50.96 for my meter, just that one cost. I'm at 102 per whatever unit, right? Per gallon, I guess?
What's missing in there, Mr. Benson, is the constant, which is the base rate. So when you look at that number, that's a combination of the base rate and the price of water. So as you use, as you're using more water, the base rate, the cost per base rate is going down because you're spreading it over more gallons. So that's what throws the math off in this instance.
I understand that, but so then if you're using 30,000 gallons plus, you're still paying less percent. You showed it in your math showing, hey, we're not sure we want to do that, because if we do that, you know, they're paying much less of a percent increase. Well, yeah, because the water's getting cheaper the more they use.
No, actually, the water price goes up the more they use.
I don't see how that's bearing out.
Because you have two constants that are mixed in there. So you have the water acquisition.
Well, then you should show that on this piece of paper instead of saying that water is going down over the current, they'll go down 4.3%. If we raise their rate 3.5%, they're going to actually go up 4.3%, and a negative under-over scenario over there, 13.3% negative. So this is a little bit fuzzy, and I hate to do math for the three people watching at home, but you're making it very clear that those over 30,000 are actually getting much cheaper water than the single-family garden home getting 5,200 gallons.
Mr. Benson, I appreciate your questions, and I think that for sake of time management, let us go back, clarify the exhibit, and be more direct in explaining the two tiers that we have here, the two scenarios, and we'll bring that back on August 22nd. We have less than 20 minutes left before you are no longer to take action. We have to go back to 13B and 13C, which are both related to the budget.
Well, I was sending a spreadsheet of a bunch of questions I have that I created because I went through the budget line by line, and I have some questions. So I'll send those, and you can answer these along with the spreadsheet.
Okay,
yes, sir.
And then the other one, if you could give like some real world examples, just grab a couple people that have bills, you know, and say, you know, the Smith family or whatever, you know, use a lot of water, you know, and just give us how that would affect that family, you know, with option 1 and 2. And then like, you know, the Jones family that barely uses any water. I don't know. Just grab some real world examples.
Real world examples.
Water my yard too.
So we'll clarify the exhibit. We'll use real world examples of residential accounts.
Yep.
Without naming names.
There you go.
And maybe that versus a high tier use.
Then the second one was on the drainage utility district rates, right?
Yes, the ERUs, where it's shown by ERU, the tiers, so that we can eliminate, not eliminate the cap entirely, but provide a tier structure so that the larger entities are paying their fair share.
I agree with that. And I know that I know that you had said that you're going to come back with Republic. We got a 10-year contract, and we've still got 2 years.
Raise their rates in several years.
Wow.
They have not raised their rates in multiple years.
At least 3.
2019.
And so they're just going to present to you on proposed rate changes. It's your discretion.
Okay, because we've got that 10-year agreement.
It expires in 2025, so
I know.
2024 we'll start to evaluate what is the process to look at a franchise agreement. Go out for bid or do best and final offer from Republic before
for
going
Republic
out
you're talking
to
about?
best,
Yes.
Okay.
best breed.
I say we go out and look at.
Waste management,
We'll
is that
decide
the only
that in
other one in town?
2024.
Yeah, Waste Management. You've got Apache, who is in Cibolo.
Apache.
So.
Okay.
So.
Sure. All right. So are we
I
done?
don't know if we got direction on the drainage utility district, but I heard Mr. Hicks was very clear. I didn't see the rest of council opposing that, but I just want to make sure we're following the direction of council.
We got, I thought we were still on the amendment, any expenses.
Right,
got
I
that
said, but let's start on the
Oh, okay.
utility rates and then the DUD. And then we're going to go down this.
All right. So we good with the tax rate?
Well, real fast, I'm going to take the silence on the drainage utility district rates as we'll move forward with those proposed rate changes.
Which ones are those? The wastewater and the water acquisition?
We're going to go up.
Oh, the ERU one, yeah, whatever.
Okay.
And so with that, does council have any comments to amend expenses in the proposed budget?
I do all email them.
Okay, thank you. For sake of time, just so you can take action on the 13B and 13C. And does council support the tax rate of 46.99? You adopt a budget first, the tax rate comes afterwards because the tax rate supports what's in the budget.
Yeah, I support that. We're lowering taxes. That's fantastic.
Well, and you
Well-
can still decide to do that. Today, you're setting what the max will be.
That's correct.
And then when you approve your
That's
budget,
right.
you can still go lower.
Because once the citizens, if they vote for the tax, I mean, for the animal shelter and it's going to go up. You know what I mean? So we give them a break right now and then see what they want to do.
Now,
Budget is based off of that 4.6.
9.9.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know. I don't want to convolute things with other
And
stuff.
then
but yeah,
we
I like
know that you want us to bring back options for the water revenue. We've already covered that. With the 5-year capital program, do you have any comments other than what I heard from the council CIP subcommittee? And based upon what I presented to the rest of council, are y'all okay with the changes and the clarification that we had tonight? All right. And I'm again seeing silence as agreement. Does council support a defeasance resolution for increased debt capacity?
Yeah, could we just make it 18? What is all this nonsense with 29.0?
So we can't
What is
raise-
an 0.06 of a penny? Did anybody know what that is? It's insanity.
Or why doesn't truth and taxation allow you to round up the tax rate to an even penny?
Oh my gosh.
The questions that
2906.
keep us up at night. Council, for sake of time, Mayor, Council, I want to thank you on behalf of Ms. Miranda, myself, the entire executive team for giving us direction on this proposed budget. With that, we're going to move back, and Ms. Miranda will introduce and cover items 13B and 13C for action.
Okay, yeah, moving on to 13B, discussion action to set the maximum tax rate and set the date for the public hearing on the tax rate and subsequent adoption of the proposed 2023 financial year 2024 property tax rate. Ms. Miranda.
Included in your packet was the truth and taxation calculation and the sample publication that will be published in the paper with that maximum tax rate that you proposed tonight. Again, the tax rate that you set tonight, or the proposed tax rate that you set tonight is the maximum that you would be allowed to vote on when you adopt the tax rate. You can, however, adopt a lower tax rate than that, than what you approve to publish tonight.
I'll make a motion to set a maximum tax rate and set a date for the public hearing.
Let's do the tax rate first, and then we'll separate.
4,699 cents.
Okay. Do I got a second?
Second.
We have to do this all in one motion, though, Mayor.
Oh, you sure? Okay. Well,
Yeah,
it's
the way
broken
it
out as two
reads.
agenda items. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, we can do it in one motion. That's fine. All right. And what the date's going to be?
No, it's two agenda
The tax rate is, we have to vote on tax rate by itself.
Okay. All right.
Well,
so
the way that you've got this
That's-
written.
So let's clarify. The state law requires that the vote to adopt a proposed maximum tax rate must be a roll call vote, indicating any absences from the dais. Even though council votes to consider a proposed tax rate above the no new revenue tax rate, the council may, as a result of deliberations,
Yes.
adopt a tax rate at or below that published. And so this is just on the tax rate.
Okay. So Councilman Hicks has made a motion to adopt to propose a tax rate of 0.4699, and we have 2 seconds. We'll start with Councilman Benson.
Aye.
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 Ayes have it, 7-0. All right, moving on to 13C, discussion action to set the date for the public hearing for the fiscal year 2024 proposed budget.
I make a motion to set the first public hearing date of September 12th
I'll
for
s-
the fiscal year 24 proposed budget.
Second that.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. We'll start with Councilman Hicks.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Ayes have it, 7-0. We will do that on the 12th. All right. Okay, very good. So that gets us through LM, discussion direction on the Nemitz Park land swap letter of intent. LOI, Mrs. Lee.
Today.
All right, good evening again. I would like to recognize that we do have members from the City Council Land Swap Subcommittee here, as well as represented from the EDC Land Swap Subcommittee. So I'll just give kind of a high-level overview of where we are today, and then certainly want to let them and you have any other discussion you have. So if you'll remember, the City Council did authorize the creation of a subcommittee back in February to further evaluate a potential land exchange between the City of Cibolo and the EDC for property around Nimitz Park and including Nimitz Park. There's been a number of meetings since the April-May timeframe with the subcommittee, a lot of good input and discussion that's been had on what that concept could look like. And so the result of where that is today is included in your packet. There is a draft LOI, a non-binding letter of intent that's really serving as a document to just express that there is general consensus to continue to pursue this idea between the City of Cibolo and the Cibolo Economic Development Corporation, making sure that everyone is on the same page. That information is within your packet based on the last feedback from the subcommittee that met about 2 weeks ago, I believe, at this point. After this, there's no action asked of the council tonight. This is just to bring it to you, see if they're, again, we're kind of on the same page. Next steps would be to incorporate any changes that we hear tonight into the letter of intent. It would go on the EDC's agenda for August 17th for next week for them to actually take a vote on it, and then it would come at the August 22nd City Council meeting back to you for a final vote. Should the council and EDC come to an agreement on the letter of intent, then we would kick off working with the attorneys on the actual letter contract, the legal side of that, getting things like the surveys and appraisals all squared away and incorporated it, and then going through the potential exchange process at that point. At that point, I can answer questions, but again, I don't know if there's anything that the members from the subcommittee want to say that maybe I didn't cover, or any of your thoughts you'd like to share as well. That's it.
Thank you, Kelsey. Anyone have any questions?
My question is, who's going to pay for the amenities? And then you look at it and you're taking out trees. I'll tell you straight up, I'm not for this land swap. I've talked to several citizens after it and that voted to look at it, because that's what the misconception is it's already a done deal, and it's not a done deal. And I try to explain that to them. It's not a done deal. I've got lots of concerns. Who's going to pay? Because we've got basically a guesstimate of what it's going to cost. Because I know darn good and well, at $2 million, $2.3 million to put everything that we've got there back in the new set, there's no way. Because I know the cost of those two pavilions is way more than that alone. Our former mayor puts up and constructs these types of buildings, and there's no way for that to happen. I know that a football field and a baseball field alone, you're looking at $1 million plus.
Right, and I know that we did
Yes.
receive from the city engineer's office their opinions of probable costs for the reconstruction of Nimitz Park as it is, and then also looking at adding similar or better amenities to it. That was part of the discussion, was figuring out what kind of cost sharing potentially there could be between the EDC and the city of Cibolo, looking at grants that might be applicable to it. As of right now, there's not a definitive, the EDC would pay up until this point and the city would pay up until this point. So I can't provide that unless, again, the subcommittee members have a different interpretation of that. That is something that would need to be worked out through the letter of contract agreement as we finalize what those costs are.
Who's on that subcommittee?
Me,
Petzel,
and Randy.
So with this letter of intent, there's a lot of stuff that we don't know yet, and I wish we would have had included that map with the layout of where the amenities were going to go. I think that really helps put a visual on what the park will look like.
Sure.
So if we could get that emailed, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely.
So the engineers that we're working with did a list of the amenities that the current Nimitz Park has, and we looked at the Nimitz Park if we switch the layout, and how those amenities will fit on there. And the map is really nice. It looks really nice. It's very functional. We know the price that it's going to cost around about to update Nimitz Park where it is now. That park has a lot of things that need to be updated. Yes, we have amenities there. It's going to cost way over $1 million to update that park as it is.
Oh, absolutely, but.
So with the new park, we know we're going to have to get new things. You tear down something, it doesn't just magically reappear. So in our cost agreement, it's really hard to know how much the city should contribute versus what the EDC should contribute. We know on the city side, if we keep Nimitz Park where it is, we're already out that $1.3 million or whatever it's going to cost to rehab Nimitz Park. We were already going to pay that. So if the new park costs $2 million, the city was already on I'm throwing out numbers because I'm not good at math, so I'm trying to find easy numbers for me. And we knew we were going to pay $1.3 million, then the difference there in the new park versus the old park is $700,000. That's the money that we have to figure out who's responsible for what. That's why in our letter, we didn't get into specifics. The engineer, and please remind me if I'm wrong, the engineer was already doing a park study for the amenities for all of our existing parks, and they were going to lump in the new Nimitz Park in the map that they showed us with the amenities on there and show us what that cost would be. So we'll have much more concrete numbers, but they're just not ready yet.
Can I read something that bothers me? Because we've had Cibolo Valley Drive, right? And we've had other projects. I like to use that one because now it's done. We can use it. It hurts less. But right here in this letter, it says, the cost estimate for future amenities will be provided by the city of Cibolo to the Cibolo EDC prior to execution of this document. And then it goes on to say future amenities. What does it cost? This letter says I'm going to have that in my hand, and we don't know. I mean, even if you're right on Nimitz Park is $1.3 million to rehab it, if it's that to rehab things that are already there, tearing them up and rebuilding them is going to be
Triple.
significantly more money
Yep.
than that.
Correct. And I think when we said prior to the execution of this document, that meant the contract itself.
Okay, but you're talking
That's not what
month.
we're signing tonight. We're just talking about it.
I understand,
Yeah.
but you're talking about in a month, right? In a month, you're gonna bring this back, and you're gonna have real-world numbers to this. Okay, but, I mean, the other problem I have with this is why are we doing this? I mean, we have a park that needs help, no doubt. And we talked about that at our budget meeting. I've never understood this. I've kind of sat here and tacitly supported whatever people want to do with this, but I don't understand it. And I can't get anybody to give me a real reason why we're just going to go tear up this park, tear it up to refurbish the way it is, or you got a little design layout here. But I don't understand what the land swap does for anybody. I'm not sure I understand why anybody benefits from that.
So based on the discussions we've had in our subcommittee meetings, and y'all pipe up too if you have any feedback, the idea is to try to attract a hotel type facility. Those hotel type facilities want to be at the back of the property by the overlook or by the drop
Cibolo
off.
Creek, right.
By Cibolo Creek. That is one reason why to do this land swap. It opens up commercial at the back of the property and at the front. It gives more 78 frontage to commercial. Having the park in the middle takes kids away from being by the street. An additional thing that the EDC is putting in their agreements with the people who develop is that they're going to have to provide extra parking spots. Currently, I'm going to butcher these numbers.
300 more parking spots.
We have like 109 parking spots, I think, right now at current Nimitz Park. They are constantly overflowing. They're actually using the EDC's empty land right now as parking. With the land swap, the developers will have to put in more than 300 parking spots over what their businesses require. So if your business requires 200 parking spots, you're going to have to put in a certain number extra for the park. So we get that parking.
More parking per business has to
Yes.
be put in to get to that 300. And it'll be for sure at least 300.
Yes. So that's another reason. Another reason that we're doing this is, and I think we put it in the letter, is they're looking, the EDC is going to put into a public, like a POA.
Yes.
Property Owners Association, that's what it is. So the developers will pay into this Property Owners Association with hopefully the, enough coming in to offset the maintenance of the park. So any additional maintenance that goes into the park, the POA will put towards that.
There once again, like the YMCA.
It feels more like Red River Ranch, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, that
What's
too.
going to attract these businesses to come here? Just the creek, or what's the offering? Because it just seems, for a hotel to be right there on 78, kind of smack in the middle
Yeah.
of nowhere. What is the attraction to bring people to want to go to that hotel?
Actually, it's the YMCA, the baseball fields. We have a lot of tournaments there.
Mm-hmm.
There is also a it's not a convention center, entertainment center
Yes.
facility that they're looking at bringing
Are
in there.
those like overnight stays that require a hotel?
They can.
It can be weekends.
What's the, do we have some numbers to say that these are the number of events that have overnight stays that will require hotel stays?
The EDC may, because they've been looking at a hotel for quite some time, and this is actually a piece of property that they have a potential,
Our EDC already
someone's
owns the
very
property
interested
next
in
to
it.
Nimitz Park.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
EDC has not done a hotel feasibility study since COVID. That would need to be updated. There are two, and anyone can read it. It is on the city's website if anyone just wants some light casual reading. But that does classify different things like quinceañeras who might need event space or overnight accommodations for
prom,
people coming in,
like
proms,
Cibolos,
project graduation items. Also, as we are attracting additional industrial or large
Keep 'em off
commercial
the
users,
streets
we
of
hear
prom.
more
So it'd be
requests
like
that
a
people would like to,
community
fly
center
people in and
use-
stay
It would
local.
be somewhat of a community center just as well, using this hotel space?
Kind of like
Convention
in
center.
San Marcos, there's that
Downstairs.
Embassy Suites, whatever, right by the outlet mall that has a convention center
Mhm.
attached to it. My daughter went to dance conventions there all the time, make a killing on dance conventions.
Just
in
the other
Dallas.
day, I
She's
drove
girl.
from Bamsey all the way out to Seguin. Not one hotel along
Hey, then we're
78.
early in the market.
Early in the month.
Early in the market,
Strike
let me
while
tell
the air
you,
is really hot.
I'm sure
Everyone in
Converse, hold on,
Walmart.
let me finish here. Converse, I'm sure have tried and tried and tried to attract it. You got Seguin, they can't attract. Come on, let's be serious here. I mean, for an extra 100 foot of property along 78, we're going to for sure get a hotel? Come on, guys.
We've already had interest.
I'm going to tell you.
Interest. Like
What about 35? That's what we need to be focusing on, hotels and convention centers.
There's a pad site set aside for that on over by the.
Well, exactly, but I don't see nothing going vertical, Mayor. I'm just saying.
Can you
Over by
share
St.
the
Pecos.
interest that has been shown? Is it the hotel or is it the businesses? What's the interest?
We've had a hotel interest, we've talked, but nothing's set in stone at all, because we've had no
Because we gotta
LOI,
get
so
this
we
deal
can't,
done, and then the interest
we
will
can't
come.
present anything to them officially, so.
Well, what about the property adjacent on the other side?
Of-
And utilizing that one instead of destroying a park
In
that
the
gets
corner?
used every single day that park is used.
Correct.
Every single day it's used. And so here we are, we're gonna tear up a park that is
That's
utilized
dilapidated.
every single day.
And it's not in good shape. It gets complained about constantly, because I use that park, my family uses that park, and I-9 uses that park, a lot of places use that park, but it needs a lot of work,
We understand that it needs work.
okay?
I understand it needs work.
How would you get the
But-
use say you renovate it, you will still have the problem of parking, because you won't have anywhere to park even on our property.
No, because supposedly the parks is gonna be moving that building and everything over here by where the.
That's still
So
not going to
you'll
give you
get
200 extra
25
Yeah, it's
spots.
gonna
to
give you
50
more
parking
parking.
spots.
Not 200.
Will the parking spots take up play space? For instance,
No.
No.
are you growing the play space, the field space, the sports space?
It's
in
gonna
these
be the
parking
exact
lots?
same amount, so
The
we're
exact
swapping
thing
the
that they're
exact same
using.
amount
So
of land.
families or, events that come, they're never going to feel like, wow, this park seems so much smaller now that they've built all this other stuff.
Same
No,
exact
and I
amount of
really wish
space.
we had that map.
Yeah. So, what is it, a total of 5.6 acres, I believe? that
It's
we're-
5.6 acres. I'm
Let
not
me see if I can find it in my email.
convinced that this is the right move for the city of Cibolo.
So tonight is just, do you want to move forward with the letter of intent? I think if Ms. Lee could get back up there and just say, this does not cement the deal, this does not cast in concrete that the council is committed to an ultimate agreement, but it allows us to take the next step. That's it. So I think what we're looking for on this letter of intent is there language in this letter of intent that is not clear?
There's a lot of it that's not clear. I mean,
What do you need clarification on so that we can come back to you, which will not be on the August 22nd agenda? That agenda is already packed, but we could bring it back in September to you.
Okay.
I'm making that.
I hate the fact that we're going to have our citizens pay once again for a park that's already there.
They're going to be paying 1.3 million to fix the park that's already there.
Well-
And not get the 200 extra spots,
I can assure
not
you.
get a brand new pavilion. It would
The
just be
pavilion
rehabbing what's
is
there
going to be
already.
more than the $2 million that they
We're
proposed.
waiting on those dollar figures. We have that EDC is actually paying for the engineer, I believe, to do the study on the cost of these things.
And the money we spend to rehab the park will be a continual.
Mhm.
And we have a very good possibility with our ownership association to fund those maintenance items.
Because right now we're spending, what, $100,000 a year to facilitate, you know what I mean, to keep
Oh,
it up?
yeah,
Yeah.
So that's $100,000 savings per
I think
year.
Mr.
if
Craig
the
had
POA
estimated
takes over,
150.
right?
And it's just one more opportunity for us to grow as a city. You can plus and minus this up and down the board, but our close proximity to Randolph is just, I mean, there's pilots in there every weekend for training.
Oh, I
spending
know.
the
I
night.
was in the Air Force. I'm very much aware of it.
And they're gonna gravitate to a new hotel. And they're gonna gravitate to what we have. We have, let's face it, they love Harmon's barbecue. They come here every day. It'll come this way. I don't see any way out of it.
I don't see it happening. I've been here 30-plus years, and I don't see it.
You also probably didn't expect 30-plus years ago that there'd be an H-E-B and a Walmart.
Yeah, I did.
Well, all of that aside, I mean, there's gotta be some meat on this bone. I mean, telling me you're gonna redo the park and I've got nothing, right?
Well, without,
we
I
keep-
think
I keep-
without a LOI, we can't even
Well,
approach anything.
Okay, but it's gotta be,
correct?
it's gotta be pretty realistic for me, and it's gotta be money that you have and can show
Well,
up, because.
but just
Because the
sign-
idea that we're gonna spend, oh yeah, we'll fix all that, right? And then everything goes on, and then it
It's a
comes back and they're
promise.
like, oh, we don't have the money for it.
Well,
right?
so
That's gonna be really
just
hard.
signing an LOI, all that does is it gives the EDC the ability to go out there and look for prospects.
That's
And
fine.
so,
All I'm
hold
saying is
hold on.
moving forward,
So
there
if
better
they
be
don't
meat.
find any prospects, and if this is a pipe dream, for lack of a better word, and those
Oh, they
prospects
wanna
never
stay
come to
there.
fruition, then it dies. It dies on the vine. You don't lose anything.
Move forward with it.
You know what I mean? You would lose absolutely nothing by pursuing
That's
this.
fine, I'm just saying, the next time this comes up, if it comes up again, there better be real meat on the bones, because we're gonna replace everything exactly as it is, yeah.
Right, and that's
I got
still a
oceanfront-
possibility.
front
That
property in Arizona.
that's still a possibility in your back pocket. You know, if there's absolutely no customers, no hotel wants to do it, no pad sites want to come to town, then sure, yeah, the city can chalk up the 1.3 million and then pay $100K plus per year to maintain it. Have no new parking, sure. That we can look at that as a worst case scenario, which is what we got right now. You know what I mean?
The developments, the hotel, they're okay with building additional parking space that will accommodate our sports activities.
I don't know if that has been expressly talked about with the hotel.
Okay.
That hotel user in particular, that was a discussion that the EDC board president had individually with them. However, I do believe he mentioned that he had talked about there could be some additional things like that there would be making sure it's a nice thing for the park, so that could include additional amenities or things that would be going on. But the EDC would have to be very upfront that that's an expectation and a requirement of any development that goes in. So that would be written into any transactions that would be there. And I do hear the feedback too, so when we do bring this back then, we'll make sure that we have that concept plan attached, as well as sending it before, but also making sure that's included in that, and then including what those actual opinions are on the probable cost from the city engineer's office. So it is itemized and says, like, for the pavilion, this is what the expectation is. For so many feet of walking trails, this is what the expectation is. There's more hard numbers that you can look at.
I'm really excited about this escrow concept we've developed now with sidewalks. I want to do this with the park. I mean, it's cash up front in a bank, because priorities will shift, and the park will be torn up, and there'll be a hotel, and there won't be a thing on it. So, I mean, this needs to be hard cash laid out,
Probable,
where it's coming from,
yeah, exactly.
identified, not, and we'll get to the park, because 10 years from now, and the park's not got to, there's gonna be a lot of unhappy people. So
Right.
I think that needs to be part of this meat on the bones, a real life estimate and where the money's coming from. Because we don't have it, has been pointed out, right? And so we tear it up, we may not have the $1.3 million to rehab it, but we sure as hell don't have, $6 or $7 million to replace it when it gets torn up, and then we don't come through with whatever, right? So
Because we've heard that probable cost before. Look at Cibolo Valley Drive. You started on that,
Right.
down that track.
that's my concern. If you can bring all that, yeah, I read it.
Yeah, we read
So
it.
it gives you a time frame of when construction starts. It doesn't start immediately. If it comes to construction needing to start on that property, we have to have everything going within 24 months. It has to be ready for anything to go in within 24 months and be usable. That's what it says in there.
I understand. What I'm saying is the money to replace the items, the amenities has to be there. It can't be, okay, we've done this, oh crap, we're 4 million short of what we thought, where's this money gonna come from? That's my point. That's my point. If we're gonna do this, then it has to be upfront, where the money's coming from, cash in hand, and then we go. Because otherwise,
And that could be figured out at a later date. This is just letter of intent, just to move forward, to see if we can get a prospect in there to even move forward.
I understand. I'm just, this is, do we wanna move forward? And I would expect, I would have liked to have seen more meat on the bones. I would have liked to have seen this drawing that you guys are all talking about, right? I mean,
But you can't put that in there.
We can't. So with a letter of intent, you have to have a letter of intent in order to spend money on stuff. In order for the EDC to agree to spend a lot of money, they have to know that the city's on board with it.
We could have discussed this behind closed doors, right? I mean, I think if we're spending money, we could have easily gone back in executive session and discussed all these wonderful ideas. I'm just saying.
So this is why we have a subcommittee,
I
though.
understand
Like,
that, and
I
that's
was
why-
adamantly opposed to the land swap at first.
That's why I'm
Adamantly
leaving the door
opposed.
open as a possibility. I'm saying, but the next time this comes back, it needs to be solid. Because it won't be
And
an
it-
LOI now. Now it'll be real.
Right, so this is a letter of intent. This, I believe, is coming back to us, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's September, right?
Yes, based on what city manager said. So it would go to the EDC at the next week's meeting, and then would come to council for the letter of intent. If that is then successful at city council, then we would move into the, as Councilman Benson was mentioning, that next phase, the final document, which is the everything's legal
Right.
and binding.
So the letter of intent is the first step. The second step is getting all of the documentation to see if this is financially feasible, because we can't, the EDC can't pay for these studies and these things unless we have a letter of intent. The city can't pay for anything unless we have a letter of intent. We have to have that letter of intent in order to do those things. Then once we do those things, then we vote on whether or not this is realistic. The letter of intent is the first step. The letter of intent is what we should have done with the toll road from the beginning and not jumped into a contract. We are doing this the right way by having that letter of intent. It opens the door a crack so that you can start doing the work that you need to determine whether or not to enter into a
I
contract.
don't know, because I'm gonna tell you, Katie, I was told we need to vote on this so where we can start having these discussions. Well, we voted on it, we let the
Yep.
citizens vote on it to have these discussions. And now we still can't even get a cost. Because that was my big thing before I even voted for us moving forward on it to put it on the ballot. What is it gonna cost my citizens?
You mean the cost for the ballpark? That's what you're
The
looking for?
ballpark, to replace
You want a
everything.
ballpark number?
I don't want a ballpark number because of the fact
We're-
that we've
those
had
studies-
ballpark numbers for Cibolo Valley Drive.
The price
And
list.
guess what? That tripled.
Yeah.
The price
I don't
the
know how
price
to
list
price a ballpark
of the
myself,
parks
but-
right now is being developed by the engineer. They are working on it. We should have it soon.
Yes,
If-
yeah.
The longer we sit without a letter of intent, the further behind we are.
Yep.
in the eight ball here. And the more it appears we're indecisive to any future business that wants to locate here. And I don't think that's the persona we need. If we're gonna move forward, we need to move forward. And I think the citizens spoke when we took this to the ballot and they voted it.
And they didn't understand it though, Ray.
Everybody had an opportunity, it was presented to them, and just because you got 5 people that don't agree with it, that doesn't carry the vote.
More than 5 people.
All right,
Katie
well,
and I put a lot of time and effort into this, and.
So has the EDC, so have
and
the park
EDC has
reps.
put in countless hours, and I think we as a council have to move forward and make our best choice with this. And if it turns out it's not gonna work, these guys on the EDC are gonna be the first ones to say, let's not. Because it's gotta be viable for both of us, correct?
And this is tying up all their money. They dumped a bunch of money into buying this property with the hope of turning around and making a profit off of the development. They're already planning on selling the first piece of property at a very steep discount so that that first developer puts in all the infrastructure, all the roads.
And I'm gonna tell you,
So-
Mr. Thies did a spectacular job with his expertise and his knowledge in getting us to the point where we're at now.
So I understand y'all's concerns because those are the same concerns that I think Randy, me, and Dick all raised. We've talked about this ad nauseum. The letter does seem a little vague. We did have very specific things saying the EDC will do X, Y, Z, the city will do X, Y, Z. We took those out because we wanted to have something hard and in writing. The letter of intent is just that. It's just saying, hey, we're saying we're gonna take the next step. We're gonna start paying for these studies. We're gonna start, there's a study y'all are paying for. I can't remember what it is. But there's a study that the EDC is gonna pay for, but the letter of intent just says, the citizens vote and said they wanted us to look at it. The city has looked at it. We've met with the EDC. We have these preliminary agreements that we agree that the city will do these things, the EDC will do these things. We agree that once we have more information, we will come together for an agreement on those things, and then we move and do those things before the signed contract. There's still a lot of steps. If you look at the timeline, there's still months.
So this is going back to EDC at their next meeting, right, Justin? And so let's see if the EDC can get some of these questions answered that council members have concerned with. You know what I mean, as far as the ballpark figure. And
I don't want a ballpark figure, because we have a ballpark figure.
Okay.
You can't have straight up numbers right now.
Well, maybe just take some estimates.
You can't have straight up numbers. Okay, a football field / soccer field is gonna cost this. A baseball field / softball field is gonna cost this. A
Y'all's
pavilion,
engineer came up
the
with
two
those
pavi-
numbers.
Let me finish. You got 2 pavilions there.
Yep.
Granted, you're only gonna make 1 pavilion.
No, we're
Understand.
gonna put 2.
Well, that would be nice, but you got that footprint. You should be able to have costs for those. Just
Yeah.
like you have a cost for a restroom, just like
So,
you have a cost.
yeah, so find some invoices for other cities around here that just bought that.
Our
You know what I mean?
engineer literally is doing a price list.
So Mayor and Council, we have those figures. We'll provide them when we return. They are
All right.
developed by a licensed landscape architect who does just this, develop public parkland.
I think that'd be
Sorry, we did
helpful.
not include that in the packet. It will be in the packet.
Okay, so that would be helpful.
Next
And,
one.
and this isn't something we're voting on tonight anyway.
Right, you
It's a
just given
discussion
us
direction, so we'll bring it back.
We'll bring it back in the form that it was presented tonight.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mrs. Lee. Thanks, Justin. All right, moving on to 13N, discussion direction on the proposed updates to the FY 23 through 27 Council Strategic Plan Implementation Matrix. Mr. Reed.
Mayor, council members, so part of your budget process is you updating your annual strategic plan. So first, I want to recognize Dustin Morris for his work in preparing this update. So Dustin Morris was in our Economic Development Department. He has a skill set and strengths that I saw would fit perfectly with performance management. And so Dustin is the individual who spends his time making sure that we are developing our performance management program and that we track the strategic plan each and every year. So I just want to recognize him for the hard work put into this. Tonight, I'm not asking for you to finalize, say this is good to go. What I'm saying is I'm providing this tonight so that we're on track with your budget. August 22nd, I'm going to be standing back in front of you saying this hard copy that you received on August 8th, did you have any comments? Is there something else to add that you would like to advocate with your fellow council members? I'll tell you that we'll continue to work with department heads based upon your discussion about the budget tonight. Is there something else that we need to put in here so that you are helping me as the city manager to align your staff resources with your highest priorities? I'll restate what my previous presentation to you was. We're achieving roughly 95% of your FY23 strategic plan actions. That's not by a lackadaisical effort. That's an intentional, proactive effort through my office working with department heads to deliver on our promises, on what you as a body tell us. This defines success. Accomplish these matters. This is what will help us achieve our vision. Your vision, which is the city of Cibolo is a community honoring our historic roots, responsive to our residents, and innovating for the future. This is your document where you encapsulate those actions that will drive us to that vision. So tonight, here's what you have in your hands, and I'd love for you to look at it over the next couple of weeks. What is in green are items that have FY24 goals, and some may require budgetary consideration, which tonight you gave us direction on the budget. You're going to give us more direction August 22nd. The items highlighted in orange, or you may debate that it's not orange, it's yellow, are new items added by staff that address additional goals addressed by council. So we've heard over the past month since April that improving our fire ISO is a priority for our community. We think that's a fabulous goal. We heard council get behind that. We've added that to the FY24 goals. And in the budget tonight, you said use ARPA funds to do a fire ISO study that would preempt, that would come before the actual ISO office coming out here to conduct the study. So this would be a consultant that comes in and evaluates us and says, here are the strengths that you have, here are the weaknesses, here are the approaches to overcome those weaknesses. So that example that's on this first page is pulling from what you've been giving us direction on, but for which we had no funding. And then the red text and text that is strike through is to denote either new text or text that has been removed respectively. And the strike through can also be used to denote goals that were removed to another section, either in the same strategic goal or under a different strategic goal. So I'm not here to go over page by page. I'm asking, we're doing the hard work of listening to you first, understanding what your goals are, and then we've written this up. And so please look at it over the next couple of weeks, and at your next council meeting, I'll be seeking your action to finalize this so that we can bring you the FY24 through FY26 strategic plan. If you have any comments about the multiple pages that are in here tonight, I'm here to listen to that and take comments and notes.
Thanks, Mr. Reed.
Thank you.
Moving on to 13O, discussion update on the RFP for City Attorney Councilman Benson.
I just asked for an update to find out where we're at. Mr. Reed sent an email. I think he's going to address it.
So yes, I sent Mr. Benson an email so that he had it in writing. I just want to let the rest of council know that since July 11th City Council meeting, my actions in progress on a city attorney legal services RFP, request for proposals, includes gathering 5 RFPs, RFQs issued by other cities in the San Antonio area as templates, working with the finance staff and our procurement specialist. We have a rough draft RFP that will be completed by end of next week in a draft form. I'll present to council August 22nd to ask you what would be the selection criteria you believe are the right criteria and how are they weighted. So let me be clear, we're taking those other RFPs, we're going to insert in my cover sheet. Here's what the city of X, Y, Z included as criteria. What do you think is the right criteria for you? And then the selection process. We've also reached out to other cities and found how have they gone through a selection process. There's more than one way, and no way is the right or wrong way. I want you to tell me how you want that selection process to go once proposals are received. And then my goal is after August 22nd, your clear direction. We're going to issue that RFP by the end of August. Mr. Benson, any questions?
No, thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Mr. Reed. 13P, discussion on an ongoing suit by home rule cities against the state on House Bill 2127, preemption. Councilman Hicks.
I brought this because at the workshop that I was at, I guess week and a half ago, they brought it up that I think San Antonio and Houston have filed suit against the city. It's a preemption bill. It's also known as the Death Star bill. It's pretty much harming cities and their abilities to govern their cities in their areas. So I just wanted to bring this up. I don't think that we need to join the suit right this minute.
Just ride their coattails.
Ride their coattails until
$1
exactly.
budgets.
They've got a lot more money than we do, and then at the right time we can approach our attorney and see what he thinks is the best option for us. But it was something I wanted to bring up to the rest of y'all that you know that bill passed, and it's brutal to the cities. So,
thank you. Moving on, 13Q, discussion on Cibolo powwow, changing the date from November 3rd, 4th, 5th to October 20, 21, 22. Councilman Hicks.
I just want to bring this to you. These dates have been marked off. Former Mayor Boyle brought it to my attention. I think he brought it to
Yeah, I
your
was on the
attention.
text.
That the dates that he had picked is a date in Houston, which they've got a big powwow in Houston.
Right.
We wouldn't draw as much, so he asked that we move the date. I just want to let y'all know that he's not asking for anything different than what he'd asked for before, just the change of the date. So I know
Okay.
Ms. Simics has got it penciled in for the new dates, and just wanted to inform council of that.
Okay. No conflicts, Becky?
Mr. Reed?
The one conflict that we're aware of is that's the same, I don't know if it's all 3 days, but it's all 3 days for our fall cleanup. That's where we put roll-off dumpsters in the parking lot. So what staff will need to do is talk to Republic Services about that, but that's the only conflict I'm aware of. So.
Well,
we'll
like
work
I've
on
brought before, and I know that we've had them out here before, right behind the annex building. So maybe we can look at
Yes,
putting
I'm
the
just
roll-offs
raising that
over there.
awareness that Mr. Foos just made me aware of that. I didn't know that before today, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilman Hicks. All right, moving on to 13R. Discussion on SB 28, money for water acquisition, approximately $10 billion from the state. Councilman Hicks.
At that same workshop, it was brought to our attention, it's the one that Charlie's ex law firm brought at the Hog Wild. They
Yeah.
mentioned that there's close to $10 million, or
$10 billion, right?
$10 billion in water acquisition. And as you mentioned, it's got to go before the voters. It's
Just like 14 amendments, or not amendments,
Yes.
but 14 things to vote on, props or whatever.
So I just want y'all to know that we need to, encourage citizens
come
to
vote.
come vote for it, and that way we can try and get some of that money.
Sure. Makes sense. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. S, discussion from council members that have attended seminars, events, or meetings. Sounds like you've been going to a few of them, right, Hicks?
I have been. That one, went to one today on legislative update by Linebarger.
Saw that.
That was a good conference. They have a different outlook because they look at the taxes and stuff, but it was a good conference. There's another one I went to since then. Can't think of it. Oh, the P&Z at ACOG, yes. And that was another good, there were several. I know
Oh,
Mr.
yeah, the
Hines
training
was
for
there.
P&Z folks?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Hines, Mr. Mahoney, and Mrs. Sanchez were, and Mr. Hetzel was there. There's some good information there.
Yeah.
Passed it around.
For sure.
That's all I've got.
Anyone else have any items that they, from workshops or seminars or meetings or events they've attended?
We had an animal advisory committee meeting 2 weeks ago, and one of our committee members owns some property next to the ball fields, and she has asked about donating part of her property for city use for either the animal shelter or for something else. So we're going to arrange a meeting with her, but I thought that was really neat that she's wanting to give back to the community, so that's.
No, and I'd heard that also in speaking with one of the residents, because it's the property right next to the ball fields, and she wants to be able to have access, or make access, because she wants to have a dog park.
That was her original idea. She said if we build the animal shelter there,
She
I
just
was not
wants-
aware that we already owned land for the shelter off of Schaefer,
Yeah.
but we do, so.
Yes, we do.
But potentially, using the property that she has, we wouldn't have to build a parking lot for the animal shelter, so that may save us some money. So it's just a very, very high level, well, this might be an idea.
Because she's the one that was going to put in the veterinarians
Yep.
vet center on Green Valley, and she's moved it to over here.
So
Yes.
that was exciting, but it
It was good.
It was, we have a really good group for the animal advisory, people who are really passionate about it and full of ideas. And I'm really excited about our new animal shelter manager as well.
For sure. Anyone else? All right, moving on to 13T, discussion on items the city council would like to see on future agendas. Yeah, just like always, email them to Peggy and Mr. Reed. Okay, moving on to U, discussion action on the review and confirmation of all upcoming special meetings and workshops and scheduling the time, date, and place of additional special meetings or workshops. Ms. Simmons.
Okay, we added one meeting to the August schedule, so I'll send you a new calendar. And that is on the 21st of August. We've added a Board of Adjustments meeting, and it'll be here at Noble Group at 6:30. And I just remind everybody about our ethics training again, the 16th, excuse me, it's on the 16th at 6:30 and on the 26th at 9 a.m. So if you haven't sent me an email, just let me know which one you're going to attend. If you could do that, just trying to make sure we have enough items and everything we need to for each of those groups. Thank you.
How long is that going to be?
Question, Ms. Simmons, because you've got 9 to 2 on Saturday. Is that supposed to be 9 to 12?
9 to 12.
Okay, I was gonna say, that's a long day.
I'll be sending you a new calendar with the BOA.
I know you've had a busy week. I'm not.
9 to 12 is scheduled?
Just
Throw
for
the-
you, sir.
3 hours.
Throw the mic at me if you have to. It's all good.
Item 16, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thanks.